My name is Tyler Fornes, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy AEW podcast here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We take a broad scope approach to the world of All Elite Wrestling and the entire universe of Tony Khan. We talk about the big matches, the big stars, the promos, the storylines, and we also look at it from a big picture perspective. How are things going to change over the course of the next 10 years with AEW still in the picture? How are companies like WWE going to adapt and adjust to AEW? Are they going to be a similar way like they did with WCW in the late 1990s? Will there be a counterpunch? We talk about all of that and more on The Good, the Bad, and the Hungy every week on the Voice of Wrestling Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Very, 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 Mickey, Pishy, Pishy!
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
The fucking sun sucks. I don't know what you people see in the sun. I don't know how you people do the sun. It's just the dirt worst. I want nothing to do with it. I'd be content never going out in the sun again.
And Rich Crage.
This is the dumbest show. I cannot believe these people. Some people pay us $10 to listen to the show live. This is what we give them for 45 minutes.
Been doing this for 10 years. Why?
We're bigger than ever. More people listen to us than ever.
Why?
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. No Joe Lanza this week. He is off in Cincinnati watching his beloved Reds. But I have a very special show hopefully planned for you guys. We'll see if it all comes together. But it came together at least for our very first guest, as we are joined by one half of Keeping It Strong Style. It is Jeremy Donovan. Jeremy, how's it going? How are you?
Hey, Rich, I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Doing well. So, it's been a long time coming for us to finally get on here and do this, and no better time than to talk about the G1. But before we get into all that wrestling crap, that who cares? You are also a new father. Tell the world. So, what 4 months old now?
Yeah, just had the 4-month appointment this week in the 95th percentile.
Whoa! In weight and height?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we got to get him training, right?
Yeah. I got to get him, take him some bumps. So
95th?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
now, are you guys particular? Would you consider? Because I have met you a couple times. I mean, I don't know if I consider either of you to be. It's not like you're Victor Wembanyama's parents. Like, how did this happen? Like, what happened here?
I don't know, because I'm probably, I would say, more on the shorter side for guys, and my wife's a little bit shorter than me. I mean, we do have, like, my dad's kind of tall, and so is my grandma, and she has some tall folks in her family too. So maybe some of that's like heading down the line here, and because he's 26 and a half inches long already.
Jesus. My God.
So he's just growing fast and growing quick, and so I don't know where the magic genes are coming from, but it can't all just be me.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah, congratulations on that. That's awesome. Yeah, everybody healthy, everybody happy, everybody doing well.
Yeah, everything's going well. Yeah, the wife, she had a C-section, but it was planned, and she's been recovering, and she just started going back to work a couple weeks ago. And it's obviously you're still pretty fresh in the journey as well. So it's just the whole adjustment and the late nights, early mornings, getting used to things. I mean, it's great for watching New Japan live.
Yeah, I was kind of annoyed. So I was slightly annoyed. My guy, I had planned on, like, when he was born, the baby being born, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna do this at night. I'm gonna do this at night. I'm gonna watch this at night. And he, like, slept really well. And I was like, man, I really want to watch, like, I got, like, the NBA League Pass because I was like, oh, I'm going to be locked in on, like, Trailblazers basketball this year. And I'm like, I'm going to be watching, like, Japanese wrestling live for the first time ever and not waking up spoiled. And then, like, he just ended up going to sleep all the time right in the middle of the like, he, a little late, like maybe midnight or so. But yeah, I was expecting the, slap my hands and be like, cool, 2 a.m. Great. New Japan just started, or, All Japan I can watch live or whatever. And then, it ended up not happening. So I guess a good problem to have, but I was a little, I had gotten myself ready for the life of a live Japanese wrestling watcher, and it just didn't happen. So.
Yeah. My guy, he gets up usually around, I'll get like 4 or 5 is kind of when I take the early morning shifts, and so a lot of those Corkins will start like 5:30 Eastern my time, and so yeah, it's like perfect timing. Get his bottle ready, get in my seat, and throw on some Cork in action.
That's great. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the G1, let's let people know that about your show. Let's get the plugs out of the way now, in case don't want to rush it towards the end of the segment or whatever. But yeah, let people know about your show. I think for people that do not know, I mean, you guys have been keeping it strong style now for a long time, right?
Yeah, since November of 2017.
Yeah, wow, time flies.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, pretty much almost 10 years in the game. We haven't missed a week yet. Every week there's been a Keeping It Strong style, whether or not both of us have been on it, but majority we've both been on it. But yeah, we cover New Japan Pro Wrestling every week. We're covering the Road to shows. Back in the day we had the Lionsgate, Lions Project, pretty much anything that hits New Japan World. We're covering and reviewing it. And yeah, we're on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. So our show drops every Tuesday morning. Also, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/KI Strong Style. You subscribe there, you can get the live video version of the show. Also, we have some bonus audio up on there. Josh has been doing a Tanahashi series. A lot of the episodes for that, it's up there right now. So a lot of great stuff there. But yeah, I mean, we love New Japan, and even in the good and the bad, and do our best to bring our great ratings, takes, and opinions on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously it comes at a great time to bring you on here, because the G1 Climax starts this Saturday. Now, you will not be in attendance. I will be there. Your other half will be there as well. Joshua will be in the house, though, right? Yes.
Yeah, young boy Josh Smith will be there. Yeah, I'm sad to miss out this time. I looked forward to my my annual Chicago visit. I've been to the last few Windy City Riots. I was at the first All In. It's a little bit bummed I'm not going to make it, but yeah, dad duty came first here this week. So, but yeah, I'll be tuned in though.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to be there live. So I'll definitely have to meet up with Joshua at some boy. Young boy, he's got to be like approaching his 30s now. It's like the Case Lowe thing where we still call him our young boy Case Lowe, and he's like 34 years old. No, I think Case is like 29 or something now. How old is Joshua at this point?
He's older than me. He's
older than you, was it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, he's 38.
Oh my God, he's old as hell. Yeah.
Because I turned 37 in August.
Is he 38? He looks great for 38. Good for him. What's his skincare routine? He's a good looking guy for 38 years old. I'm all haggard. I guess he doesn't have a kid, right?
Right. No kid yet. He has a wife now, so he's one step of the way.
Oh,
so.
He'll start looking then soon. Yeah, he's all in shape with good skin. Yeah, it'll start wearing on him a little bit. There we go.
Yeah. I know he has a special hair regimen he keeps up with.
He's got great hair. Yeah. Better than mine for sure. Mine is hanging on for dear life here, so it's all right. We get what we get. But we have the G1 obviously starting in the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, Chicago, for lack of a better term, Chicago, as people like to say. But what'd you make of that announcement as we kind of just start from the beginning there? What'd you make of that announcement when it was said that, hey, the G1 is going to start in the United States? Harkens back to many moons ago when they started in Dallas. What was that?
2019?
19, yeah, 2019. Yeah. So it's been quite a while for obvious reasons. Obviously, 2020, 2021, those were not great times to travel outside the country for a show. But what'd you make of that when you first got the announcement that the G1 is going to start in America, and it's going to start in the Chicagoland area?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting because these whole New Japan US shows, they seem to not always fit the natural flow of the New Japan schedule, and let's be honest, sometimes they're just not end up being that great. You get a lot of West Coast
a lot of Royce Isaacs, Isaacs,
Fred Rosser, and it's like what's going on here? And something we've said for years on the show, it's like, all right, if you're gonna do these big US shows, fit them into the schedule, make them one of your bigger shows. And I feel like they've kind of done that with Windy City Riot. Became kind of one of their flagpole shows of the year, and I felt like they kind of drew pretty well there in Wintrust, and the big Moxley Naito match and stuff like that. But then you'd have these other kind of random shows throughout the year, and like Hammerstein or some of these other 2300, and they would just kind of do these random shows and it didn't fit. So I thought it was great that they're coming back to the U.S. for G1, and it's in Chicago, which seems to be a pretty good market for them for the most part. I know that they kind of struggled a little bit here with G1. Overall, Chicago's usually been a great city for them.
It really has. Yeah, it's been a good, the Windy City Riot, like you said, it became an event that starting, you had the Jungle Boy thing a couple years ago, and that was a lot of fun there, where he came in as like the hated heel there, and then and then obviously Tanahashi and Takeshita was that last year, obviously.
Last year,
and that was a lot of fun, and that was a really good show, and that felt like an authentic New Japan show. And I think that's really because I had been to some of those New Japan Strong shows, and some of them were okay. Like I went to the Will Ospreay John Moxley one for 2022, I think, or whenever that was, and that was okay, and that was fun. But yeah, like you said, when the shows were billed as New Japan Strong, it always was, and Joe and I have talked about this a lot. It always felt like they're telling you, okay, it's not really New Japan, it's kind of New Japan. It will have some of the New Japan guys, and I think that it kind of suffered from that. It suffered from the idea that you were watching a secondary New Japan show, whereas no, I'm not asking. I didn't ask for a G1 to be here, but that's awesome. I mean, the Windy City Riot was to me like, okay, this is like a show that's really, it felt kind of in canon in some ways. Like getting Takeshita and Tanahashi last year felt like a very good, okay, this is a pretty major match that we're giving you guys. But then they just completely blow the doors down. When it felt like they were kind of winding down New Japan Strong, they blow the doors off with, oh, you're getting the first night of the G1 is here in Chicago, and that is just I was blown away by that. Even as I'm kind of iffy on New Japan right now and kind of down on New Japan right now, still like you can't help but get excited. Like in a couple days, I'm going to watch a G1. Is it the classic G1 of yesteryear? Not quite. Although this is a pretty good show, and we're going to talk about that. But it's a freaking G1, and that's pretty incredible to be there live for it.
Yeah, it's a G1 Climax, and I was happy to be there 2019 in Dallas and see Archer and Ospreay and Okada and Tanahashi. So yeah, it's the G1. I know that they don't have also the top stars that they used to have, and there's some questionable folks in there. Your Jake Lees and your Great O'Cons, but it'll end up still being, I think, overall a great tournament. It's a G1 Climax, and I think they've made a smart decision by kind of moving away from the Strong branding. And I've listened to you guys and agree with you guys, and we've made the same points. Like, I felt like Strong had its point during the pandemic. It gave them something to do for the U.S. guys that couldn't get to Japan. You had some nice little weekly TVs. You had, Brody King and Swerve and Blake Christian and guys like that rolling in. And it was a nice little TV show for this kind of that weird pandemic area and waiting to get guys back in Japan. But like once Japan was open up again, it just kind of seemed like there was no real reason to have Strong, and the brand was just weaker than just throwing the regular New Japan Pro Wrestling line mark. I feel like that was the draw. Those early, 2017 California shows, those Strong Style Evolved, Young Bucks versus Golden Lovers. So like the appeal was, oh wow, New Japan Pro Wrestling is coming to the US. That's the brand I love. It's a rarity. I have to go. And then I felt like they watered it down with the Strong branding, and then maybe you'd get like an Ishii and a Tanahashi, and then they're just filling the roster of a bunch of either West Coast indie guys or East Coast indie guys, which, no offense to those guys, sometimes a lot of, really great workers there, but when you go to the New Japan Pro Wrestling show, you want to see the product that you're watching in Japan.
Right. And that was always, I liked most of those shows. It just never felt like I was watching a New Japan show. It was like a show, like you said, a sub-brand that occasionally some of the main roster guys would come down and wrestle with them. And it's been nice that it has kind of switched off of that a little bit. And those original, you brought up a great point. Those, I remember the excitement for those, and really the excitement as well for the Global War shows when Ring of Honor started bringing in the guys too. Like I went to a couple of those, and it was like, oh my God, the people and the lines to get, autographs and 8x10s or whatever. I mean, that was, it was the, early, it was the peak of New Japan. It was the first time they were really coming stateside for a while. So it was that fever pitch, but still it was like, I think they kind of accelerated that not mattering pretty quickly by doing the Strong stuff. Were you going to be able to maintain that, for years and years and years? I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think, they certainly probably hurt themselves a little bit by doing the, the Strong branding instead of just having it be New Japan shows. But regardless, we're here with, actual New Japan Pro Wrestling G1 Climax 3 days ago from WrestleTix. Tickets distributed 3,363 on a setup of 5,937. So the draw hasn't been great so far. I mean, that you can't call that a success. It's not a great number. I hope that they can get up to 4,000 as we approach. Maybe there's going to be a decent walk up or whatever. But were you surprised that the ticket sales were kind of sputtering as much as they were?
Yeah, it wasn't surprising because, like we mentioned earlier, I felt like the Windy City Riot shows did like 4,000 to 5,000 and seemed to sell pretty well. And I would say that, G1 is a stronger brand and more recognizable than a Windy City Riot. So yeah, it's very surprising. Still, Now Arena, I know it's a little bit outside Chicago, but that's, the site of the first All In, and AEW's ran several pay-per-views there and don't seem to have many issues filling that building up and getting close to that, 7 to 10,000 range that it seats. So yeah, with it being the G1 Climax, and I get there's no Tanahashi, no Okada, no Ishii, none of the bigger familiar names, but I would still think like, man, it's a G1 Climax. That I feel like that, to me, the G1 kind of feels like WrestleMania. Like you slap that on the marquee, I'm like, oh, that should just bring in people on its own right there.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'll be very curious what happens the day of. I don't know if it's just the fact that it's the middle of the summer and people, obviously people in Chicago just go nuts in the summer because it's like we only have about 3 months of decent weather, so it's like people just go nuts. And people might even not call this decent weather. You know what? It's gonna be like 91 degrees all weekend, so maybe people are gonna say, screw it, I'll go to the Now Arena. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder if it maybe was a miscalculation to go to the Now Arena instead of Wintrust. Wintrust obviously more centrally located in the city. Now, with that said, I don't know. I'm not looking at the contract or whatever, but I would assume that the Now Arena was significantly, you've been there, significantly cheaper to rent the Now Arena than Wintrust Arena. Now, Wintrust obviously doesn't have a ton of stuff going on all the time, but the Now Arena has like nothing going on. I don't know if you've ever like seen what happens there other than wrestling shows. It's like high school graduations, the Windy City Bowls, and then like occasionally some sermons or whatever are there. It's really weird. It's a very strange place. Like here's everything that's happening. So all upcoming events for the Now Arena. You have the G1 Climax, July 15th, the weekend after. You have Volleyball Nations. Then there's nothing until August 8th when Raja 50. I don't know who or what this is, but Raja 50 will be there. There you go. Some other Indian woman will be there. September 11th. There's nothing from July 19th to August 8th when Raja 50 shows up. And then there's nothing from August 8th until September 11th when some other Shreya Ghoshal shows up for the Unstoppable Tour. And then nothing then until another week when Phil Hickman shows up to do Songs of the Saints. And then nothing until All Out. So you basically have 4 random events and then All Out smashed, between All Out and the G1. So where, it's like, oh man, it's a disappointing draw. And yeah, oh man, you want more people in that building. I would assume that, without knowing exactly what, all the dynamics of it all, they might actually break more even running the Now Arena and putting, 4,000 people in it than running Wintrust and putting 5,000 or 6,000 in it, just given, building costs or whatnot. So we'll see when it gets there. But a lot of blue dots still, unfortunately, on that ticket chart. So
yeah, probably good for the bottom line. And also, too, you got to think about like just how many wrestling shows there are for people to go to. I mean, obviously, there's, Dynamites and Collisions every week and Raw and SmackDown. And then there's AEW pay-per-views. Obviously, you got Redemption coming up and you got All Out coming out and All In. And obviously, I know a lot of people want to fly to see Kenny and Ospreay. So maybe you're saving your wrestling money to go to that instead of G1. I mean, there's a lot of competition out there.
There is. Yeah, the traveling wrestling show, that sort of... There was a time where, you could travel for a Global Wars and it'd be like, well, this is my only chance. I'm going to be able to travel, or, the first All In, or, a couple of the first AEW pay-per-views, but now they're running monthly pay-per-views. Obviously, it's a lot going on. Yeah. So it's interesting. So we'll see what ends up happening when people get in the building and what all happens. But the card is an interesting card. So obviously, I'm assuming going to be the main event of this show is Konosuke Takeshita and Yota Tsuji out of the A block.
Yeah. They announced the card order earlier.
Oh, would you have the order? Okay.
Yeah, so the main event is Tsuji versus Takeshita.
Is the opener Hanari Aaron Wolf?
Yes.
Okay, so I have the right order then. So what I have is the official order. So so that's cool. So Takeshita and Yota Tsuji as your main event, Hanari versus Aaron Wolf as your opener, Shingo Takagi versus Jake Lee. I mean, I've seen Shingo a couple times live, so I'm not as disappointed. But man, it's like, man. I mean, someone's got to face Jake Lee. I know. I mean, I simply nobody could face Jake Lee. He could just not exist. But yeah, it's fine. If you got whatever, fine. Okay, we'll let it slide out.
We'll see if Shingo can pull a Miyahara like performance here.
It's true. Yeah, Jake Lee was at certain points during his All Japan run was able to be carried to a pretty great match. So we'll see if Shingo's got his hands full here with the old clown guy. Ren Narita versus Oscar out of the B block. Great Okan versus Yuto Ice out of the A block. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Shota Umino out of the B block. I like it. It's a Wrestle Kingdom main event from 2 years ago, and it's like the smash in the middle of this random show. It's so funny but time has moved on. Indeed, Hiroki Goto versus Sonata. A block. Yu and Merv versus Cal Newman out of the B block. I'm very much looking forward to that. And then Rohei Oiwa and Oleg Boltin as your semi-main out of the A block. That really caught my eye. That's a big time spot for those guys.
Yeah, that caught my eye. Had a friend of the show, Chris Samsa, was on our show this week, and we were running down this card, and both of us were like, yeah, that really caught our eye, because we were thinking originally, maybe Zach and Shota would be the semi-main event. Like you mentioned, Wrestle Kingdom rematch. There's a couple other, Dome rematches on here. You would think, oh, that's a really big match. Plus Zach, former world champion. Umino is just a global champion. That would be your semi-main event. But yeah, putting Boltin and Oiwa here seems very interesting, which makes me think maybe they're going to be more of a players going into this year's tournament.
Yeah, and that's speaking of Chris Sampson. I think it's a good time to do a plug-a-roo for the G1 pick'em. So G1.sportofprowrestling.com. I will put a link in the show notes as well. But if I do forget, G1.sportofprowrestling.com to join the unofficial New Japan G1 Climax. For people that are longtime listeners to the Flagship, we used to do this on Voices of Wrestling. Chris kind of took over the mantle there, and more power to him, and has enabled Jeremy Sexton, who does our match of the year, to help build out the form. So it's not a obnoxious Google form that I have to then input to another. Like whatever we were doing, it worked for the time. But what you'll see here is way better. You can see your standings as you're putting in the match, because that would always happen if I would do our old school one where I would do it on like a Google sheet or whatever, and it would be like at the end I'd tabulate it, and I was like, wait, I have like this guy winning the block. I can't have this guy's not supposed to win the block. What am I doing? Like, so this one's nice. You can track the blocks as you're selecting the matches or whatever. But it's a lot of fun, and I definitely encourage everybody to join. It's free to enter, and it's a good chance to win prizes, earn bragging rights, and be the G1 Climax Pick'em champion. So G1.sportofprowrestling.com. Jeremy, I assume that you filled out a ballot here.
Oh yeah, I filled my ballot out, and yeah, the website and the usability is awesome. And much like you guys, we also used to try and do our own one. We had the Google form, and we're having to like tabulate points every day. It was a nightmare.
Did you get people that would like DM you and be like, so what happens if I have like a 9-way tie? And I'm like, no, don't have a 9-way tie. Like just don't.
Right, yes,
I don't know. No, I'm not going to figure out a scenario to let you have a 9-way tie. Just don't have a 9-way tie. It's not going to happen. They're not going to book a 9-way tie.
So I'm so glad that Chris and Jeremy Sexton
let them have it.
Yeah, it's easy. I love like as you're making your picks, the scoreboard updates and changes. It's super easy to use, and I love it. So I got my bracket filled out, and I have Aaron Wolf and Umino coming out the B block, and I have Takeshita and Boltin coming out the A block.
Ooh, so okay, that's that. I love it, because that was going to be my next thing. Is let's follow up. Let's talk about those things, because I have similar but slightly different there. So I love the idea. You have Oleg Boltin. So were you inspired by his semi-main event slot here in this opener?
Well, I had him slotted before the card order came out. Part of my reason I went with him is because I was looking at the A block, and I was like, the two favorites seem to be Tsuji and Takeshita to come out of it. But I'm like, that just seems a little boring. It's like Tsuji's a champion. I know you want to make the champion strong, but if you look back, he's been in the semifinals and finals like the last 3 or 4 years, and then same thing with Takeshita. Also, he won it last year, and he's also, since he's been in it, has been into the semifinals. I'm like, well, clearly one of them has to go through. So I'm like, who's somebody that's kind of up and coming that I feel like you can slide in there that would make sense? And I think Bolton's the perfect guy. I feel like his first half of the year was really good. He had that great match with Ishii for the strong title in the beginning of the year, and he's been in some bigger spots throughout the year as well. And coming back from injury, I'm like, this seems to be a good spot to put him. Also, I think it was either the Tiger Mask show or the Road 2 show, they seemed to make a big deal about him coming back from injury. So I was like, let me go with Boltin here.
I love it. Yeah, it's a type. I went pretty chalk. I went with Takeshita and Tsuji there, because it just feels like those are the very comfortable picks. But those are the comfortable picks, and I don't want the comfortable picks. I like your pick. I like yours a lot better. I wish, I'm picking to be higher up in the rankings. I'm going with what I think, but I love that idea of Boltin getting in there. I think, where did I have Boltin? I had him right in the middle of the mix, but you're really selling me on him possibly being there. So yeah, Takeshita and Tsuji are the two probable favorites out of that block. What do you think about someone like a Yuto Ice? Like, they've obviously protected him a lot. He, with the tag team, with the Knockout Brothers, like, he feels like he's going to obviously be the breakout star of that team. Did you ever consider him maybe being a little bit higher in that A block, or do you think he's kind of middle of the road right now as he's still in the tag team?
Yeah, I think he's going to be middle of the road. I think he's going to probably be in that 8.4 and 5 range. And I'm a big fan of Yuto Ice. I love the Knockout Brothers. I know Joe is not super huge on them. I'm one of those guys that I'm rating all their matches super high. I know I just love their matches. I think they're a great tag team, and I was there live at Ota Ward for them versus Zack and Oiwa, and that just was incredible live. And yeah, I think Yuto's a big star, super charismatic, but if you've noticed, since they've been back, sure, they've won a lot of tag matches, but they have not won a lot of singles matches. So I still feel like they're kind of slow rolling the singles push for him, and they still kind of have him primarily the tag guy. So I think, he's kind of fitting that role of almost like a Tamatonga kind of guy, where like when they're more in the tag role, like they would do well, but not overwhelmingly well. And so I think that also, I think he's going to get great reactions. I think he's in the right block for his style of matches, but I think he'll end up in that kind of middle of the pack for his first G1.
Jake Lee. Jake Lee is an interesting character. I'm done with it. I'm over it. I've been watching him for 10 years, kind of not be very good and not be very interesting, and now he's in New Japan being not very good, not very interesting. Where do you think his booking is going to be? And because he was the one name more so than anybody else that every time he came up, I was like, he could it felt like a coin flip every single time. 50% of the time he could win this match, and 50% of the time he could lose this match, because he's the type of kind of shitbag guy that you can beat one of your top guys, with, and it's just like nobody's gonna think that Jake Lee has earned a title shot or has moved up the ladder if he beats one of your top guys. It just feels like he's gonna do it in such a chicken shit manner and such an annoying manner that it's like, that he shouldn't have won that match. He stole that match, or he cheated to win that match. So where did you ultimately end up having him when you were doing your pick'em?
Yeah, I think I have him also in that 8-point range, just because he's a guy where, he was a former challenger this year. He had the match with Tsuji, and they've kind of downcycled him since then, but he still seems to pin a lot of the upper mid-carders, and they do seem to kind of protect him. They've gotten over that giant killing knee that he does that, took Shingo off the shelf for him to go on his honeymoon. So they, for whatever reason, all wrestling companies see something in Jake Lee and will continue to go with him. So I feel like, my gut wanted to give him 4 points, but just knowing the way that they are enthralled with him and what he can do, I think he will be, 6 to 8 points. He's probably going to feel more of a bad luck Fale role where Fale didn't always win every match, but he would beat Okada. He would beat Tanahashi.
Exactly. Yeah.
And get you a fall defense. I mean, luckily he's already had a title shot this year, so hopefully he's not getting another one out of this tournament. But I could easily see him, beating a Goto or Shingo or Sonata. A lot of the kind of older guys, and even somebody like, an Oiwa or Yuto Ice.
Yeah, that's exactly. I have him at 8 points. I have him beating Bolton, Oiwa, Goto, and Shingo. So exactly like you said, he's that guy where he could beat those dudes and it won't feel like those guys were, like you said, the bad luck Fale role, where it's just for whatever reason, it feels a little bit better if a Jake Lee beats him, and it's hard to describe it. I ended up had him at 8 as well, and with almost the exact same wins. I did not have him against Tsuji because I just cannot stomach the idea of or him against there's certain guys that I was like, I can't go that far. Yuto Ice. That's an interesting one. I don't know about Yuto Ice, but yeah, I can't go far enough to have him beat a couple of these other dudes on this show. But
yeah,
we're going to get a Jake Lee versus Sonata match at some point. So that, as far as the A block, now, one of the common things that Gato has done with his booking of G1s is the classic guy starts kind of slow and then sort of gets that momentum. Do you think we're doing that again this year, since it's been a Gato, trait over the years, is one of the guys that's going to either win the block or make the playoff? They lose their first 2 matches. They start off a little bit slow, and then they get fired up, and then they get going. Because you have Takeshita and Tsuji the first night, so one of those guys is going to have to lose. And I feel like one of those two are going to follow that Gato plan, where it's they're going to lose 2 or 3 matches right out of the gates and then win out the rest of the way. Did you kind of have a similar vibe?
Yeah, I feel like, with Tsuji being his first G1 as champion, maybe he can kind of fit that role, where I'm assuming that Takeshita's probably going to get the win back in Chicago from losing to him at Wrestle Kingdom. And so maybe he starts off kind of slow and then he has to kind of rebuild. And because he's champion, maybe he loses 3 first and goes on that 6 match, winning streak kind of a thing, and ends with 12 points.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I think I have him at 14 points or whatever, but I had the same idea. He loses to Keshida, he loses to, I think Goto was the second night or whatever, and then he can kind of reel off the rest of those. We'll end up seeing there. But as moving on to the B block, you said you had who was your 2 that you had out of the B block?
So right now I have Shota Umino and Aaron Wolf.
Aaron Wolf. Okay, so now you got to talk to me here because you're speaking my language here. So you think that we got House of Torture in the rear view, and we're moving this guy up the ladder. We're having him make the playoffs of the show. I'm loving it. So
yeah,
pitch me on this. Let me hear it.
Yeah, I mean the key thing there is so that last B block night, the match is Aaron Wolf and Zack Sabre Jr. And when I look at that whole last B block card, and let me pull it up because I try to work backwards sometime and kind of see what the last night's looking like. So the last B block night, it's August 13th. You got Drilla versus Umino, Oscar versus Uemura, Zach versus Wolf, Newman versus Hanare, and Ren Narita versus Gabe Kidd. And so when I look at those matches, just based off the names, the two most important to me seem like it's going to be Drilla and Umino and Zach and Wolf are going to be your two main, like, winning you're in going to the finals. So I think Umino dropping the gold belt's going to get in. So I have him beating Drilla to stamp his way and get in as the winning the B block. And then I have, Aaron Wolf pulling the upset on Zach. Zach's another guy that's obviously won G1 recently. He's been in the semifinals. I feel like, they've been slow rolling Aaron Wolf. And I don't know, I was inspired by the Yoshihashi match. I thought he looked great in that match. I'm like, what are we doing? Why haven't we been doing more of this? Like, why isn't he wrestling guys like Yoshihashi and Nagata and Kojima? Like, he looked really good. Also, I think there's still some in-between stuff that he needs to improve, but that's to be expected with how green he is. But I thought that match rocked, and he's in a great block with a lot of great guys. I'm really excited to see how his tournament plays out. But I think it's a perfect opportunity. I have a crazy, like, 5-way 10-point tie.
Yes, I love it.
So I have Umino, Wolf, Newman, Zach, and Maloney all ending at 10. But with the way the tiebreakers play out, I push Umino and Wolf through. And so I think it's a good thing, you keep Zach, Newman, and Maloney all strong. They all have 10. They just don't advance. And then you slide Wolf and Umino in there. And I feel like it's time, get him going. He's a never champion. He, even with the horrible booking he's had this year and being stuck in the House of Torture vortex, he still gets great reactions. The crowd wants to get behind him. Mm-hmm. They love him. And so I think you might want to capitalize on that popularity to get more butts in the seats for those semifinal nights. And I know as of right now, I don't think they've announced any, TV Asahi airings, but maybe if you get an Aaron Wolf in the semi-main events, maybe you can air the semifinals and finals of the G1.
Yeah, that's a really good point you brought up there, and I hadn't really thought of that, is that, usually they've been trying to air these shows and try to make sure that his match is slotted in at what you want to air. And yeah, if you want to put him, like, ultimately he's not going to win. I don't think you think he's going to win the G1, right? You're just saying put him in one of those playoff matches or whatever so that you could air that semifinal and get that. Yeah, and I think that's a smart idea. If you're going to get that, if the TV network is going to air you and show you, and it's going to be, dependent on Aaron Wolf being involved, then you kind of have to do it, right? You'd be silly to say, well, no, he's not ready yet, so we don't want to be on TV. Like, yeah, if that's kind of a prerequisite, you kind of have to make that happen unless you want to slot him in some random, match on that show and air that there. But I like that. It's an interesting pitch there. And yeah, I think this is going to be, to me, I was so happy that he made it in here because I think now it's a real good time to do the sink or swim. And yeah. I know we played it safe. Like, we saw at Wrestle Kingdom, and that was all great. And it's like, yeah, okay, you could buy that they had that match planned out, beat for beat. You could lead them through it, whatever you want to say about that Wrestle Kingdom match. But that couldn't have gone any better than it did. That was just a perfect debut. Everything worked. Everything was great. And that was what I thought was going to kind of be the, for lack of a better term, throw him to the wolves moment of like, all right, we're going to put him on Wrestle Kingdom, and if it delivers and if it works, we're good. We're ready to go with this guy. And they didn't see it that way. They saw it that he needed a little bit more time to kind of figure things out, get the in-between. But I think we're now at a point where if he goes through this G1, I think you'll know. I think you'll know at the end of this G1. I think if you're the company, you would know after this G1, okay, this guy's got something here. Because you're right, there is still some stuff missing in his game. He still doesn't really have that in-ring charisma. He gets it sometimes. He gets it sometimes, but there's some like in between. He doesn't have the flow that well. But there's no better way to learn how to become a great worker than to wrestle a bunch of really good workers over the course of a month, every single day, all across the country. So I'm very hopeful that this is a guy that he enters the G1 in Chicago one way and then maybe he leaves a completely different way, and we're like, yeah, this guy now we know for sure one way or another. Maybe we say this guy, maybe this guy is the shits and he's not that good, and that's why they were hiding him in against the House of Torture for so long. Or we say, yeah, this guy, okay, he's got the goods, he's ready to go, and now they can do a little bit more with him. I like, because there was a scenario where you don't put him in the G1 and we still don't quite know. I love that they're again throwing him into the wolves and saying, let's figure it out. Let's find out what you're made of. Because he's in a great block too. This B block is, I mean, I would be a little more worried if he was in the A block, but this B block, I mean, there's one night off. There's Ren Narita, and that's it.
Yeah, which is unfortunate that he has to face him again. But yeah, you look at this block, I mean, he had a great match with Yoshihashi. You're telling me that Zach's not going to get a great match out of him, and that, Newman and Maloney and Gabe Kidd and Uemura and Hanari that first night is just going to be a hard-hitting, slugfest. So yeah, I think he's in a great block to succeed. And yeah, I think this is going to be the test to see, all right, what do we actually got with him? And I'm glad that they didn't drag their feet and not put him in the tournament, because that would have been a huge detriment, I think, if he wasn't in the tournament. And so I'm glad he's in. And yeah, I think he's going to be must watch every night to see how he does, how he progresses. But yeah, I feel like at the end of this tournament, I think he will come out better and will be a guy that maybe they can count on a little bit more going into the fall.
So Callum Newman, I noticed you did not have him winning the block or in the semifinal. Where do you see his booking this year? Because I actually have him. I have Newman and Umino coming out of the B block, just because he had a big year, and I think he will still remain having a big year. What ultimately, like, I know you had your big giant tie. Did you just didn't feel like he was a guy that they were going to push through this year, at least when you were going through your picks?
Yeah. I mean, he was a name I definitely considered. Also, winning New Japan Cup, winning the title there. Yeah, I think at one of my iterations of my bracket, I think I had a Tsuji Newman semifinal as kind of a rematch, since the Dominion match kind of got messed up. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I just thought that I don't think that now's his time for G1. I feel like they did his elevation with New Japan Cup and winning the title, and now it's time to elevate some other people. And so that's why I have him, in that 10-point mix. So he'll still come out strong. He'll still the top contender, but then it allows you to, get Wolf over, get Umino over, and help elevate some other guys, since his elevation's kind of already been done this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the bottom of this B block is interesting to me, because I had a lot of trouble figuring out who would be at the bottom. Who has to lose here? Someone has to. And I ended up with Oscar was the last in my block. It was Oscar and Maloney were the last guys in the block for me. And I didn't really feel good about that either, because Oscar's been pretty protected and Maloney feels like he's on the ascension. So the B block was a very weird one for me, where I really struggled to figure out who would lose a lot of these matches, because it felt like everybody that is in that block is you want to at least protect a little bit, and they're not going to have Zach win one match. Zach's not going to win one or two matches. I don't think Gabe Kidd is going to win one or two matches. So how did you eventually tackle that lower half of the B block?
Yeah, this B block was really hard to book, because I feel like you can make a case for a lot of guys winning their matches, and so that's why I ended up with that kind of crazy 5-way tie at the top with 10, and then everybody else in my block has 8. So it's going to be kind of a parity, kind of chalk block, but I felt like that's kind of what happens here when you have guys that are almost kind of at the same level and can't be losing a ton of matches. I did have Drilla in that 10-point mix, because I feel like he's a guy that they've been slowly elevating. He re-signed the contract. He's staying with New Japan, and he's in that Gabe Kidd, storyline with the whole Gabe Umino Death Rider storyline. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he's going to be a key part in this tournament. His first match in Japan is going to be against Gabe on that second night of the tournament. So I had him as a guy as up there. And then Gabe Kidd, I had him at 8. I could see him probably doing better. He is the global champion. However, I have a feeling he might kind of do the Tama Tonga thing, where they're heels, they're kind of doing the whole screw New Japan thing. I can see him getting DQ'd some nights and kind of just living up to the whole Madman thing, and kind of doing the whole I hate New Japan thing, I'm AEW, and ruin the G1. And so I can see him losing some points that way. Narita, I feel like Narita's kind of on the downswing from his push earlier in the year, so I don't think you need to give him a ton of wins. Oscar is kind of in that Yuto Ice role, where it's he's probably seen as a tag guy. And again, I could see him also being in that Bad Luck Fale role, where it's the big guy that's going to give you the hard match, but he's probably not going to win all the time, but will win a few important matches. And then Hanare, I mean, he's double champion right now. He's one half of the tag champs and 1/3 of the Never 6-man champs. So, I mean, there might be some programs that come out of people pinning him. But again, I feel like they're kind of pushing United Empire right now, so he can't really lose too many matches either.
Yeah, I think the scenario you laid out is probably where I see them at least going, because it seems like it has to be, because like Oscar is a great example of a guy that he's not going to win the block, but he also can't lose, like he can't lose 7 matches, like he's right like that would be insane. Like I don't and I don't see, the problem is in this block I don't really see anybody that loses those 7 matches. So I think you have it right that instead of what really having a couple guys elevated over all the others and dominate the block, that it's probably going to be a very chalk, very 50-50 block, and that's that, because all the names are kind of in that mix right there. Narita being the lone exception, where I think if you wanted to tell me that Ren Narita is going to win, 1 match in the entire G1, I'd be fine with that. That makes sense. But like Zack Sabre Jr. is not going to lose 6 times. Like he's going to win a fair amount of his matches. Hanare, I think, is going to. So yeah, I'm fascinated by that B block, and I feel like it is going to be one of those ones where we look up and everybody is in that 10-point to 8-point range, and just kind of exchanging wins and losses, and that'll make it fun and that'll make it exciting, because you're going to go in, really not knowing who's going to win on any given night. And Let's do this. So we talked about the blocks a little bit for our listeners. Now Joe and I have both been pretty down on New Japan this year, and I've been pretty down on New Japan for a while. I'm a listener that listens only to the Flagship. I don't listen to Keeping It Strong Style. I don't listen to Super J-Cast. And I sell me on why I should be excited about the G1. Or maybe you could say, I don't know why you'd be excited about the G1 if you don't have a reason. But sell me, I'm a listener that's kind of indifferent to New Japan. Maybe I watched it during the glory years and I haven't really watched it later. Why should I care about New Japan right now? Why should I care about this G1 Climax?
Yeah, honestly, I think this is probably one of the most intriguing G1 Climax in a few years, just because the playing field is open. Also, the last several years, we've had these legendary G1s, and we had our Tanahashis and Omegas and Naitos and Ibushis. But I feel like, you kind of knew where it was going with those guys, and kind of was probably, I feel like, a little bit easier to kind of predict. Like, it's going to be Okada or Ibushi or Tanahashi probably winning these G1s. But now we're in this landscape where there are a lot of young, hungry guys. We're trying to establish new guys. We're kind of watching the dawn of a new era, and kind of you're seeing the ground floor of maybe what the next 10 years can be. And we're starting to establish, new top guys, new rivalries. So I think now is a great time if you're, on the fence on New Japan, or it's been a while. I feel like this is a great G1 to hop in, to learn and see who the new up-and-coming guys are, what the new programs are, and see where they're going. And I feel like, there definitely has been a lot of misses this year, but I feel like there have been some hits. And I think, with bringing back the V4, I do think that there are certain things that they're trying to get back to the way they were before the pandemic. And again, one of the complaints about New Japan is that they've been slow to push the young guys. Well, now they really don't have a chance. There is no Okada and Naito and Ibushi and Tanahashi holding up the line here. Yet now they have to count on Bolton, on Tsuji, on Oiwa, on Yuto Ice, on Uemura, on Callum Newman. And so now you're kind of seeing the future at play here. And so I think that's what's been the most intriguing thing to me. It's like, all right, who's going to come out as the stars? Who's going to be the guy, 10 years from now? Like, man, they're the new Mr. G1. They had all these killer great matches. And so I think it's just going to be a very fun, intriguing tournament to watch, and to kind of get plugged back in and see who are the new faces of this promotion going to be.
I think that's kind of the hook that I'm going with as well, is that, it's a very unfamiliar G1 in a lot of ways. And I think that's exciting, is the fact that there isn't the old, none of the gold guard is pretty much gone. Like every one of those old guard guys is gone. Your evils have now left, like everybody. And it is now, it has to be the young guys, because there is no other choice. There's nothing else. Like you could, they're not going to have Goto and Shingo come out of the A block, and they're not going to have Zack Sabre Jr. and I'm trying to think of who, like, the worst, or not the worst, but like the, hell, the B block. I can't even come up with another name, because it would be like anybody else in there would be, Ren Narita, Zack Sabre Jr. and Ren Narita out of the B block. Like, you're going to get a lot of new names in there. You're going to get, for whatever you think about Takeshita, he's still a fucking phenomenal pro wrestler. And Tsuji, who has ascended and has become, one of the top stars, and they're coming to Yuto Ice. Who knows? Maybe they really put the rocket back to him and do something with him. You put there Oleg Bolton, like that would be awesome. Oleg Bolton moving on. Oiwa is seemingly going to finally get, up in that mix. And then the B block, it's almost everybody in that B block, with the exception of Ren Narita and Zack Sabre Jr., all feels like kind of new and exciting. in different ways, particularly Aaron Wolf and Umino is obviously evolved and gotten a little bit better. But Uemura, it's a real opportunity if they want to move him up and really establish him. And Callum Newman, who obviously, if you haven't watched recently, has ascended and had a title reign and won the New Japan Cup. So I'm on the same wavelength as you. Like, I don't know. Is this going to be the best in-ring G1 Climax of all time? Probably not. It's probably going to not be as good as some of those peak, top G1 Climaxes. But I don't think we're ever going to go back to that again. I think that was a very, a once-in-a-lifetime thing that we all got to live through, hopefully, and that was really fun that we all got to live through it. But I think we might have to adjust our expectations moving forward that, we're not going to get maybe the in-ring to that level, but we are at least going to see finally the next generation in New Japan kind of emerged because they seemingly have to, and there's no other choice than to push these guys and get them ready, which is good.
Yeah. And the in-ring might not be as high as it was in the golden era, but I mean, you still look at these blocks, like the A block. You have Takeshita, Bolton, Tsuji, Oiwa, Goto, and Shingo. Like, those names alone are going to probably give you at least a 4-star match that they have every night. And then the B block, I mean, you got Zack Sabre, you got Drilla, Gabe Kidd, Uemura, Hanare, Newman. Like, all those are really good guys as well. So it might not be your 5-star classic every night, but I feel like there's a good crop of guys here that are going to give you some really good matches.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about this G1. I definitely am. I'm looking forward to it. Not just because I'm going to be there live, not just because I'm going to see a show live, but I am optimistic about this G1. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But for the rest of the year, like let's as we kind of let you go here and do your dad duties here in a little bit, where do you see the rest of the year going for New Japan? So we have the G1. You have your semifinals that you laid out there. Where do you see us going, and maybe up to Wrestle Kingdom? Like, what's the path that you have in your mind of what New Japan looks like through the back half of 2026?
Yeah, so I have Shota Umino winning the G1 Climax, beating Takeshita in the finals. So that's going to set you up for Umino versus Tsuji. Now, they've kind of shaken things up the last couple of years. The G1 winner has been getting their shot at King of Pro Wrestling instead of Wrestle Kingdom. But I feel like Tsuji's whole deal is like, we need to bring back tradition and kind of, do things the way that they should be. So it'll probably maybe be Umino Tsuji at the Dome, which I think that's kind of a good establishing of, let's get these new guys in there, establish these rivalries. Umino's been a guy that they've been trying forever to, get over and be the ace. So I feel like that's a really interesting matchup for that generation, I think. But the one wrinkle is, will it be the Dome match, or will it be King of Pro Wrestling? And then also Umino is caught up in this whole Death Rider, John Moxley thing. They had the face off at Forbidden Door, and he's doing the whole feud now with Gabe Kidd. And it's like, how does that play in to this as well? Could you have him maybe defend the briefcase against Moxley on the way there? Or maybe he beats Tsuji for the title at King of Pro Wrestling, and it's Umino and Moxley at the Dome for the main event. That seems like it might be a little bit weird, but
yeah, wow. It'd be interesting. I don't know if the New Japan fans would be too excited about that one, but I would like it.
Yeah, I think the way to go is to do Tsuji and Umino at the Dome. And so, I would build a fall with Umino, defending the briefcase, and kind of maybe he defends against like, Claudio and some other Death Riders and beat some other people and kind of build himself up to facing Tsuji.
Yeah, that's an interesting one there. Yeah, and I think, do you think he's ready now more so than he was a couple years ago? They put him in that spot a couple years ago, and obviously it didn't go well. But I think a lot of people, and myself included, I'm somebody who has been pretty critical of him over the years, but I think he has improved a little bit. I think he has shown a little bit more. I don't know if I'm fully bought in just yet, but you think him over like Uemura, you don't think it's time for him yet anytime soon, or Oiwa? Like, where do you slot those guys?
Yeah, I'm a little lukewarm on Uemura right now. I don't know what it is. Like, I digged him as a young lion, and I love some of the stuff he was like doing on Impact, on the Indies. But like, since he's come back from Excursion, like, there's just been something that's not connecting with me. And his matches have been really good, but I don't know. I think part of it's the booking. They kind of make him like the wacky roll-up guy at times. And then just his presentation, the whole Heat Storm thing, he looks like a flying Elvis. I'm like, I don't get what's going on here. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, end up in the semifinals and maybe even the finals. But to me, I feel like he's a little bit further behind than Umino. A guy like Oiwa, I feel like he is still, he had to play in this year for the G1, and I don't think they're quite ready to pull a trigger on him. I think there are still some like bigger victories he needs to get. Like, he struggled to beat Goto this year, so I think he'll probably, get a win back from Goto in the G1, and he's struggled to beat Zach, his mentor in the past. So I feel like he kind of has some hurdles to overcome before he's getting in the main event picture. So I think out of all the other Reiwa guys, obviously, Suji was the main one who's been established. So I think, Umino is the next guy. And I feel like Umino has made some strides to improve. And he's not always perfect. And there are some things I think kind of in between that he kind of misses sometimes. But I feel like he tries really hard. He has fire. Sometimes I think maybe he has some confidence issues, but I feel like you put him in there with the right guy on the right night, he can hit. And I think it's the way I booked it with him and Takeshita in the finals. I feel like the New Japan fans are just not into Takeshita. They see him as an outsider, and I feel like that's the perfect guy to get Umino cheered. And so I think you really got to position him against the right people to help him get cheered, because you put him in the ring with the wrong guy, Cadrillo Maloney, like he might end up getting booed.
Yeah, they got to be careful about that.
The guy in the city, but I feel like the Corkin crowd, like that Gabe Kidd match from the Road to G1 Climax a couple weeks ago, the crowd, like they were living and breathing with him. Gabe's even though he's doing the whole I hate New Japan thing, like the crowd still likes him, and when he initially came out, they were cheering him, but as that match went on, like Gabe did a great job of getting the heat on Umino and the sympathy and having Umino bleed. And the crowd was super behind him. So I feel like in the right scenarios, if you book it right, in the right cities, the right opponents, I feel like you can get Umino to that point where, he's that guy that people get behind and want to see him do something.
We had a good question in the chat. Someone said, I wonder how Newman will be booked given injury. I forgot that he has the injury, and that, I think maybe slightly overstated how hurt he is, but that's good. Going into a G1, I think that's a good thing to have, and I didn't even think of that. I might actually rebook my my B block now, thinking that now he has a built-in excuse for losing a couple matches. Now he has a built-in excuse for maybe not being the top of the card. So I might, because I had him pretty high, but I might now I've remembered that he is hurt, so that might be a good way to get him sort of out of that top mix. And like we said, you want to protect him because he won the New Japan Cup and he won his G1 or he won the title earlier. So come the G1, it might be a good opportunity to maybe get somebody else in that slot because he's already had his ascension. But I do wonder now if the injury plays a factor where they can tell the story that he's not 100%, and that's why he is in the middle of the pack for this G1. But when he's ready and healthy, he'll be back up there yet again, eventually facing Ospreay at wherever that might be for maybe for the AEW World title. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll definitely be part of his story. He'll probably even come out with the shoulder taped up. And from what we heard, it ended up being kind of a quote unquote minor injury. Obviously, no injuries are really minor, but also something he bounced back from. He got cleared last, or maybe it was this week. I can forget now. I think he got cleared at the beginning of this week for sure to go. And so it seems like he'll be good to go. But I'm sure that'll definitely be a story for his whole tournament, selling the shoulder.
Yeah, I mean President Tanahashi could tell you all about that. I mean that every single year you get that picture. Right before the G1, here's a
bicep.
Yeah, here's a picture of is it Tanahashi's bicep? Is it someone's bicep? Who knows? But oh my God, his biceps all. And then every single night he'd go out there and everybody would kick his bicep and pull at it and tear at it, and he had a perfect story built in through the entire G1. So I'm sure the Prez is like, nope, we're going to use this. This is a very good thing to happen to you. But there you go. So that is the G1 preview. Before we let you go, Jeremy, you were at Dynamite Live last night. People probably saw you. You were front and center. It was a yellow shirt, right? Were you in a yellow shirt?
Yeah, I was wearing a yellow Social Suplex Podcast Network shirt.
I think Kenny fell into your arms. So if you go back and watch, I think right that was you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I'm trying to think back to the show. Yeah, you were there several times. Yellow was a good opportunity, good pick because you stood out for sure.
I had to, man. It's Florida. It was so hot out there. I was like, there's no way I could wear one of my black t-shirts out there in that heat.
But fun show, a really, really fun show. And obviously you got to see a huge moment there live in the main event with Kenny Omega winning the title from MJF. What was the atmosphere like in the building for that Dynamite?
Oh, it was an electric atmosphere. The show rocked. Yeah, the crowd was super hot the whole night, like literally. And,
So what was the temperature out there?
I mean, it felt like, I didn't check it, but it felt like upper 90s. And we've been having like a super hot summer. Like next week's gonna be like in the hundreds here. So yeah, it
with
was
that
really,
humidity too. Oh,
yeah, and the humidity. Yeah, there was one spot during the Moxley Osprey tag match where like Osprey looked over to us. He's like, "It's hot out here, bruv."
He made note of that earlier in his promo too. I don't know if you guys heard or I don't know if in the building you saw it, but he was with Renee when him and MJF had their pull apart or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, "Bruv, it's 110 degrees in that there ring," So I'm sure he went out there earlier and was like, "Oh fuck, this sucks." Like, he worked a little bit. The sun had gone down a little bit by the time he worked, but I heard that was it is. Hey, look, it's St. Pete in right. Where was the exact town this was in? Was this in Clearwater or?
Yeah, this was Clearwater.
Okay, yeah, it's Florida in
close,
July.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
Right, yeah, and it's not the first time I've been to an outdoor AEW show. I've been to Daly's Place several times, and so yeah, it's not always the best, but I mean, it was a great show, and the whole show rocked. You had Takeshita and Fletcher. That was an incredible match live, and yeah, again, to see Kenny win the belt one more time. Kenny's been one of my favorite wrestlers for like the last 10 plus years, and so yeah, to get to see him win the world title 30 minutes away from my house was a super awesome moment. And yeah, the crowd just erupted when Kenny won. So yeah, it was an awesome night. Really, really great Dynamite.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of fun. Yeah, it's one of those, and one of the things I love about AEW, and you're somebody who now has been to Daly's Place, you've been to this building. One of the things I love, and I talked about it in the Thursday Dynamite review, I just absolutely adore the fact that AEW runs really, really cool buildings. Yeah. It was one of the things that I loved when they first started, and they were doing the shows on like the boats and stuff, and then they kind of lost sight of it for a while there when they just did the big basketball arena in whatever town. And again, you do that because you can sell a bunch of tickets to that building, so that's why you do it. But I really much prefer them running buildings like this. Like you would have never seen wrestling in this building ever before. I mean, you would have never seen, WWE was never going to run this building ever for any show. And it's just a really cool atmosphere, and it looked like a really fun show. What is the setup of this place? Like, what does that place do normally? Is it like a Daly's Place, like just an outdoor concert venue? Yeah, it's like an amphitheater. So yeah, they run a lot of like concerts and stuff there. So yeah, it was pretty intriguing how they kind of transformed that into the wrestling arena, and the ring in the middle there, and kind of getting the seats set up. But yeah, it was super cool venue, and everything about the stage and the lighting and how everything was set up was just really cool. There wasn't a bad seat in the house, and we kind of scored those front row tickets there right by the stage, and those were like nice, decent price for where we're at too. So AEW, the family friendly, budget friendly wrestling show to go to. You'd have to take out a reverse mortgage or to steal from your child's investment accounts to pay for, which is good. Yeah, that is always a positive if you're going to go to a wrestling show and not have to pay through the nose. But so that was Dynamite. And that was the G1. So we'll get you out of here. Before we do that, though, again, another little pluggeroo for Keeping It Strong Style and Social Suplex. Yeah, so you can listen to Keeping It Strong Style. We are on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Check out socialsuplex.com. Check out the Social Suplex newsletter that started last year. And Trish Spears from the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast show on our network has been doing a great job running the newsletter and getting some really great stories in there as well. And we have a lot of really great podcasts on our network. So subscribe to Social Suplex, the podcast network, the newsletter, and Keeping It Strong Style, where we cover New Japan Pro Wrestling every week from the Road 2s to the Tokyo Dome. We'll have you covered. All right. So, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on here and helping us preview the G1, talk a little bit about Dynamite, and send our best wishes to Josh as well, the young boy. And I will see him in, I think I'm going to see him in about, 24 hours, 48 hours, somewhere around there. Yeah, something like that. We'll be hanging out at some point, but I hope to see you soon at a show again as well. So, Jeremy, thank you so much. And then say hi to the baby and the lady for us. So, all right, will do. Take care, man. All right. So that was Jeremy Donovan of Keeping It Strong Style. Helping us preview the G1. So, all right, things are going to get not that interesting for the rest of the show. Unfortunately, it does not look like our second guest is going to be able to arrive. They're traveling. I'll just say it was Chris Charlton. We were going to try to get Chris Charlton on here to talk about the Tiger Mask retirement show. He just traveled in. He is going to be doing commentary for the G1 show, so he just traveled in. He just told me, he's like, I'm absolutely exhausted, and I don't think I'm going to be very good if I talk. We don't want him to get sick. We don't want him to not be able to talk. We want him to be able to be good to go for his commentary. So we are not going to talk to Chris Charlton about the Tiger Mask retirement show, but I'm going to talk about the Tiger Mask retirement show here in a little bit. I'm also going to touch on the Dark Side of the Ring, the TNA Dark Side of the Ring. The first 2 parts aired this week, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And a couple other news and notes around the wrestling world as well. So I think I want to start with I'm still looking at the Keeping It Strong Style logo. I want to talk about the Dark Side of the Ring, the TNA Dark Side of the Ring, first 2 parts. Now, I don't know how many of you guys went and checked this out. I know the thing that I've had with Dark Side of the Ring for a while is I used to really like that show. I did. I used to really, really think that it was a very well done. The first 2 seasons, the first were great. The first couple of seasons, I still watch stuff from the first 4 seasons or whatever. I watch those all the time, and they're good. Put them on to fall asleep or kind of have on in the background or whatever. They're good. I enjoy a lot of what Dark Side of the Ring has done. You guys know, or if you guys were Patreon members, flagship.patreon.com, I recapped the entire Death of WCW series, and I had a lot of criticisms about that series. I did an episode by episode recap. Again, you can go listen to that in the archives at flagship.patreon.com. But they needed, and I mentioned this with the Death of WCW, and I'm going to mention it exactly with the exact same issue that I have with the TNA first 2 parts, is these shows desperately need a truth teller. They desperately need somebody to go in there and say, okay, the Carnies are telling you this, but here's what it really is. If you're going to book a bunch of pro wrestlers and pro wrestling bookers and pro wrestling executives to come onto your show and give their thoughts about something, you need to understand that they're pro wrestlers. They're professional liars. And that none of these guys, there's always going to be ulterior motives pretty much with every guy you talk to. And that was the case with Death of WCW, is that you had Eric Bischoff up there. It was really for lack of a better term, it was really Eric Bischoff's like rehabilitation show. It was like, well, Eric was great and he did all these great things, and then like, Time Warner was bad and Vince Russo was bad, and then it went out of business, and we don't know why that happened. But it wasn't because Eric was good, and Eric had all the great ideas, and Eric was smart, and Eric was good, because he was there, and he was one of the, he was doing all the interviews for Dark Side, so he was one of the main guys they talked to. They didn't talk to as many people that got all involved in WCW, but they did talk to Eric Bischoff. So of course Eric Bischoff is going to say, yeah, I was really smart, I had a lot of really good ideas, and then yeah, I did this and I did that, and then this happened and that happened and that happened, and then I don't know, we went out of business. So that was a big issue, and we talked about at the time when they did Death of WCW that those guys were very against having someone like a Dave Meltzer, who was on previous Dark Sides of the Ring. Dave Meltzer, it's not like they don't like Dave Meltzer, they never used Dave Meltzer. They have used Dave Meltzer on Dark Side of the Rings all the time. They've used him. They didn't use him for the Death of WCW. They didn't use any real journalists on the Death of WCW. So unfortunately, it was just a parade of professional liars professionally lying, and you have no idea what the truth is. You have no idea where the truth actually lies in these guys. And yeah, okay, Eric Bischoff's going to tell you that I was really smart and I did everything right and everything was good and I did nothing wrong. And then Vince Russo's going to come in and say, yeah, no, I was really good and I was really smart and I did nothing wrong, but that standards and practices did this and they did that. And all these guys were able to kind of point the blame elsewhere and blame Jamie Kellner and blame AOL Time Warner and the merger and blame this and blame that and blame and never point the blame at themselves and never have a straight man or a truth teller say, all right, so here's exactly what happened, and an unbiased truth teller as well. Now you might say, well, Dave Meltzer is biased. He's really not. He's not. But you want Wade Keller? Fine, pick Wade Keller. You want whoever you want. You needed to have a truth teller on that Death of WCW show to say, okay, that's not what happened. That's not how it happened. That's not no. And that is one of the huge, huge issues with the first 2 parts of this Dark Side of the Ring TNA, is that you have no truth tellers. You have nobody there that is sitting down and giving you an unbiased retelling of what actually happened in TNA. Instead, you have Vince Russo and Jeff Jarrett and Scott D'Amore and Eric Bischoff and these kind of guys that are telling you all about Jim Cornette, these guys telling you all about the trials and tribulations of TNA. Now, it starts off right out of the gates. Like literally the first 5 minutes of the part one of the Dark Side of the Ring TNA is them explaining that TNA was created because WWE had a monopoly on wrestling. So TNA was this bright, shining light that emerged out of, Jeff Jarrett, held up Vince McMahon for money and got that money from Vince McMahon and then started his own outfit because Vince McMahon wasn't going to hire him back to WWE, but he had to start his own outfit and it changed the wrestling world forever. And it's like, no, it didn't. TNA did not change the wrestling world forever. TNA was started by Jeff and Jerry Jarrett deciding that weekly $10 pay-per-views was the way to go because they couldn't get TV and they couldn't get guaranteed money for their TV, so they were going to do weekly $10 pay-per-views, and it was an absolute unmitigated disaster that was going to go out of business within 3 months. Point blank. It was not revolutionary. It didn't change the game. It didn't offer a new spin on sports entertainment and professional wrestling. No, it existed as really in that first period, it was a fly-by-night startup that would have just sputtered out after 3 months and been a footnote in history. It would have been Herb Abrams' UWF. It would have been Smoky Mountain Wrestling. It would have been any of these other, startups from the 90s in the post-territory era. It would have been one of those. The AWF. Happersteins. What did I forget what what did Curtis Hughes call them? Abe Happerstein or whatever the fuck he called him, whatever. Paul Happerstein, whatever. The AWF, American Wrestling Federation. It would have been like that. This startup that lasted for a little bit and then just petered out and then is a long, loss to history. That's what it would have been and should have been. But one thing happened that didn't happen to all those companies, and that was Dixie Carter. Now, what, unfortunately, this entire Dark Side of the Ring, now one person they do not talk to throughout this is Dixie Carter. And what I've seen through these first 2 episodes, and these will be the only 2 episodes. Let me note, I am not going to watch the rest of the series. I think they did a very bad job, and I'm not really excited to watching the last 2 episodes. But maybe I will anyway, because I watched the first 2. Why not just watch the last 2? Maybe I will. But was not happy with the first 2 episodes at all, because they tell the story right out of the gates that, okay, Jeff Jarrett and his dad start this new thing, and it's revolutionizing wrestling, and it's changing wrestling, and it's adding a whole different dynamic to wrestling, and it's challenging, WWE's establishment at the top of the industry. And it's like, no, it really wasn't. It really wasn't. It was bad $10 pay-per-views that nobody really bought. And there were other issues as well. There was Jay Hassman, if you don't know that name. He was a guy they hired that was the liaison between TNA and the pay-per-view companies, and he was just lying about how many pay-per-views they were selling and just saying, oh, yeah, they sold 60,000 pay-per-views, and they weren't. And they made a lot of really bad, poor decisions at the beginning. But what happens is Dixie Carter, who is part of their, they have what would it be, an advertising firm, whatever you want to call it, a public relations firm, whatever it was. And Dixie Carter was a part of that firm and had a very rich father who owned Panda Energy and said, hey, we should invest in this wrestling company. And let's see, let's invest in this wrestling company and go from there and see what happens with it. And without that lifeline, TNA is dead. They're literally dead. They don't exist beyond that 3 months. They're out of money. Their business plan was bad. It wasn't going to work. It was over. But Dixie bails them out with that Pan Energy money, and Dixie bails them out by becoming the president of the company and all that. But the telling here in this Dark Side of the Ring, which is really a Jeff Jarrett redemption show. It's all about Jeff Jarrett. He was smart. He got fired from WWF. He left WWF to join WCW, and he held him up for money, and then WCW went out of business. Then Vince McMahon didn't want to hire him back because he held him up for money, so he had to do something. So he decided to create his own wrestling company and revolutionize pro wrestling. Like that's what the story is of this Dark Side of the Ring, which is not. I mean, that's not the story at all. It's a terrible retelling of the story. And look, yeah, Jeff took a massive risk by starting TNA, but to say that he revolutionized wrestling and took this massive risk and was successful and all that sort of stuff is just ridiculous. So the story here is that Jeff Jarrett hired Dixie Carter. He literally says on the show, Dixie Carter, a woman I hired, took over the company. What are you talking about, Jeff? No. You didn't hire her. She bailed your ass out. She bailed your company out. Your company would have been dead if not for Dixie Carter and her millions of dollars that she was investing in the company. Of course she wanted to stay in the company. Of course she wanted to do something in the company. It's her millions of dollars. She's not going to give you millions of dollars and say, all right, well, that's it for me. I'll just go stand in the corner here and you go spend my money however you want. No, of course Dixie Carter was going to get involved. But the telling of this Dark Side of the Ring is that this Dixie Carter woman just got way over her heels and she just wanted to get involved in so many parts of this business. And she was just a money mark and she wanted to do this. And it's very cruel. I mean, look, I'm sure Dixie had a lot of horrible ideas. I'm sure Dixie wasn't very great to work with. I don't know. A lot of people don't have a lot of great things to say about working under Dixie Carter. I get it. But to pretend that she was just this like investor in this company that should have been just okay sitting in the background and not doing anything and having no say and not wanting any part in this business, like that is kind of what they tell the story here. And it's like, no, she should have been involved. It was her fucking money. She bailed you out. She owned the company. She was the president of the company. And Jeff's like, yeah, I appointed her with a figurehead role. And then she just kind of ascended and kept taking power away from me. Well, you know how she kept taking power away from you? She had she paid for everything. It was her money. That's how she was able to ascend and continue to, be like it was her fucking money, man. Like what? It's so weird the way that Jeff tells it and the way that Jeff is very disrespectful to Dixie Carter, who saved his ass. I don't know what the fuck Jeff Jarrett would be doing in wrestling right now if it wasn't for Dixie Carter. So that is something that kind of annoys me as well, is that they treat Dixie. And the other thing too is like you have a parade of these guys that were all unsuccessful at many times throughout the wrestling careers. You have Jim Cornette saying, oh, she didn't know anything about the wrestling business. She was a horrible business person. Jim, how's Smoky Mountain going? How's that going for you? How's Smoky Mountain looking these days? Eric Bischoff. Oh, she was in overhead. She didn't really know what she was doing. Eric, how's WCW? How's your job on SmackDown? Executive producer SmackDown. How's that going? How is all your other business ventures going? How are all those things going? Vince Russo. Oh, yeah. Dixie, she was a nice woman, but she just didn't know the business. She didn't understand wrestling. And it's like, dude, come on, man. Like you, how's WCW? Again, like Eric, how's WCW doing? How's that going for you? How's TNA doing? How's TNA doing, Vince? You're such a great business. But like, it was just very strange that all these people, just ragging on Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how was TNA 3 months in, brother? What are you getting mad at? Talk about Dixie. Doesn't know anything about business. Brother, your company was out of business. You're done. You were done if not for Dixie. So that I always find, I found very, very strange. That they just, it was Dixie wasn't there to kind of defend herself. And then, like I said, there was no truth teller to say, look, Dixie bailed that company out. They were going to go out of business. Like, they don't tell that story. They tell the story that TNA was rocking and rolling, and then this Health South thing happened, and Jay Hessman happened, and a bunch of circumstances happened, and they were just, oh my God, because of this and because of that, they were running into financial issues, and they needed Dixie Carter to bail them out. No, Dixie Carter bailed them out because the business plan sucked and nobody was buying your pay-per-views. That's why Dixie Carter had to bail you out. So, again, it was just you needed that truth teller to come in here and say, no, TNA was not successful out of the gates. No, they were doing very poorly on pay-per-view. The business plan was bad. Jeff's business plan was bad. They didn't, but you didn't have that. Instead, you just had a bunch of liars going and lying and talking about how Dixie did this and Dixie did that and Dixie, yada, yada, yada. And then that extended to a lot of the second episode, because the first episode was all about the creation of TNA and Dixie kind of taking over and becoming the president. And part 2 was mostly about Jeff Jarrett and how Jeff Jarrett, his wife passed away tragically. She had cancer and passed away tragically. And that's very emotional. That is one of the best parts of this Dark Side of the Ring, is Jeff talking about his wife passing away. The other guys, Scott Steiner getting emotional, talking about how she was a great woman. Vince Russo getting very emotional and talking about how, he saw her, many before the cancer, and then he went over to her house while she was battling the cancer, and how he was just stunned at how the woman that he knew, just it didn't look like the same woman anymore, and just what cancer can do to somebody. So that was very emotional. And then it talks about how Jeff found love again with Karen Jarrett, the former Karen Angle. And they talk about how Dixie lost her mind that Jeff Jarrett got into a romantic relationship with Kurt Angle's former wife. Now, they try to tell the story that, okay, they were broken up by that point. Kurt Angle and Karen Angle were broken up. They were getting divorced, and Jeff and Karen, one thing led to another, and they ended up in a romantic relationship. But he didn't steal Karen from Kurt. Kurt and Karen were done. And Jeff and Karen then found each other after that. That's fine. They kind of talk about that a little bit, but I think everybody kind of knows that, and even Karen herself was like, I was divorced. I know what is the problem here? There's a couple wrestlers that are like, yeah, you just can't do that. You just can't go and take another guy's wife or lady or whatever. And I think it was like D'Lo Brown or something was talking about that, and Karen's like, no, we were divorced. Like, it was over. I was done with Kurt, and I was moving on. He was seeing other women. Why shouldn't I go see other men? Basically, at that point in our divorce proceedings, and they're right, and they're absolutely right about that. So. That's fine. But the big story that comes out in part 2 is that Dixie got so fucking mad at Jeff Jarrett for dating Karen Angle, the future Karen Jarrett, that she demoted Jeff Jarrett and in essence fired him and demoted him and said, you can't be in charge of creative anymore. You can't be involved in anything anymore. I'm taking everything over. You're kind of done. And one big thing they leave out is that Dixie, and this has been corroborated by any decent wrestling journalist, is that Dixie reached out to Jeff. She had rumblings that this was happening. So she talked to Jeff and said, are you in a romantic relationship with Karen? And Jeff said, no, I am not. And he was lying. So what is Dixie to do? This guy just lied to your face. You gave him the respect of, can you just let me know? Now, she may have, I don't know how she would have reacted. She may, if he said yes and she said, well, you can't do that, you're fired. Like, okay, then fine. That would have happened. But we don't know what would have happened because he said no. And again, that's been corroborated by a ton of different people. Dixie saying, are you in this relationship with Karen? And Jeff saying no. And then finding out very shortly thereafter that indeed they were in a relationship. They had been in a relationship for a while, and Jarrett was just lying to her face. So she said, you got to go. And that was seen as like an affront. Oh my God, I can't believe it was just two people that loved each other, and we thought Dixie would be happy because Jeff found love. And it's like, I don't think Dixie was upset that you found love. I think she was upset that you lied to her. But again, you needed that smash to Wade Keller, Dave Meltzer, hey, you want to call Garrett Kidney? Who better? Call Garrett Kidney over there and have him sit in. You got to be kidding me, co-host Garrett Kidney. Nobody knows more about TNA history than Garrett Kidney. Have Garrett in there to say, no, that's, Dixie asked Jeff lied to her face, and that really kind of bothered Dixie, that this guy, she gave him the benefit there and really the respect as an adult to say, are you in this relationship? And he said no, and then she went, okay, well, all right, great. And then find out, no, you're lying to me. Okay, that's not going to work. No healthy business relationship, no healthy friendship can exist with that sort of lying. Right to that, it's just, it didn't work. So then you get that story there. So the part 2 ends with Hulk Hogan comes in, and how is TNA going to get affected after that? And the idea again is Jeff saying, when I was in charge of creative and when I was running the show, we were doing good ratings and the business was good and everything was good. And then Dixie decided to bring in Hulk Hogan, and everything is going to go bad real quick. And that's the hook for parts 3 and 4, is that everything was good. TNA was rocking and rolling and everything was good and we were doing well. And Vince Russo was blending wrestling with sports entertainment, and Jeff Jarrett had them on the best ratings they've ever had. And they were selling this and selling that. And it's like, guys, you were running the frickin' Impact Zone. You weren't even touring. You weren't selling any tickets. You weren't selling any pay-per-views. Yeah, you had good TV ratings. People would watch your show for free on Spike, but nobody was buying the pay-per-views. No, there was no tickets being sold. You weren't touring. They were fine. Like, TNA wasn't unsuccessful, but they weren't successful. This idea that it was like rocking and rolling, and then Dixie upset the apple cart by bringing in Hulk Hogan. Like, would I have brought in Hulk Hogan? Fuck no. Of course not. I wouldn't have brought Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff into TNA to have them go spend a shit ton of money and say we have to tour and we have to put the TV on the road and we have to pay. No, I would have never done that. That would have been insane to do that, but they did it, and it didn't work. Guess what? It did not work. So Eric, again, hey, we're talking about Eric Bischoff. Yeah, Dixie didn't know what she was doing. She had no idea what was going on in the business of wrestling. And then you got this idiot saying, let's do, get rid of the sided ring. Let's do 4-sided ring. And let's take TV on the road at a cost of like $150,000 a night or whatever. Yeah, okay, great idea, dude. That's really, really, really brilliant idea there. But again, it's just like the idea that TNA was rocking and rolling and doing well and everything was successful. And then Dixie fired Jeff and wanted to bring in Hulk Hogan. And it's like, that's not exactly how it worked. And that's not the history. That's not the truth. And that ultimately is a big issue with Dark Side of the Ring that I found recently. And it's why I've kind of lost a lot of respect for the guys that put that show together. And I think it's produced well. It looks good. It's easy to watch. But these guys don't seem very interested in telling the truth. They just feel like they want, and you could still have, here's the thing, you could still have all the liars. You could still have the parade of professional liars, professionally lying, and you can let the audience decide who they want to believe. If the audience wants to believe Vince Russo, Jim Cornette, and Eric Bischoff, and Jeff Jarrett's side of history, then let them. But give them the option to trust Wade Keller, Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez, Garrett Kidney, whoever. Let them also. David Bixenspan. You want to bring in David Bixenspan? Fine, great. Bring in anybody who at least has a modicum of understanding of the truth. What actually happened in these situations. You got to have a truth teller on these shows, and they have actively decided not to have them on these shows. They have actively decided that is against what they want to do. When asked about that for the death of WCW, they just kind of laughed about bringing Dave Meltzer on the show. What does he know? He's biased. Blah, 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 blah. And I lost a lot of respect there. It was like, okay, well, now you guys, you're not interested in telling the true story. You're interested in telling the fun story, the sexy story, the fabricated story. You're into all that. And that I lose a lot of respect for that because I think you can do both things. I think you can have Jim Cornette and Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff and Jeff Jarrett tell their side of the story. But then I think you can also have Dave Meltzer tell the truth or his side of the story, if you want to say, if you don't believe that Dave Meltzer tells the truth or has, an understanding of what actually happened in these situations. So that bothered me a lot. And it's really making me not really want to watch the next 2 episodes. We'll see if I ultimately do or not. Oh, one more thing I have in my notes too. They mentioned Kurt Angle's arrival into TNA, and it's like, we had an opportunity to sign Kurt Angle, and you got to sign Kurt Angle if you have an opportunity to sign Kurt Angle. And they cut to Kurt Angle doing a press conference and essentially saying there was nothing left for me to do in WWE, so that's why I'm leaving and that's why I'm joining TNA. And then we just move on, and it's like, yeah, Kurt Angle was, they didn't want him anymore, and he was done with them, so we got him. You guys got him because he refused to go to rehab. And then we do have a discussion later in that episode talking to Karen about Kurt's issues. But it's kind of danced around. It's kind of, seen as secondary. Yeah, Kurt had his issues or whatever, and that's why him and I were done. And, yeah, he had this and he had that or whatever. But they just tell the story that this guy just decided, I want to go to TNA. No, he wanted to go to TNA because WWE said, you have to go to rehab. You have a horrible WWE in that era. Think about that. WWE in that era said, Kurt, you are going to die if you don't get help. We don't want you to die on our hands. So you can go to rehab or you have to leave. That's what the story was. And he left. And then TNA smartly said, we'll take Kurt Angle because of course you would take Kurt Angle. Of course you would take Kurt Angle if you're TNA. So they did. But again, they tell the story that he was just free. WWE just didn't want him anymore, so we signed him. And what a boon that is to sign Kurt Angle. And then he was off to the races, and he was great, and he was good, and then Samoa Joe, and yada, yada. And it's just, again, I think you have to really understand and tell the story of, well, Kurt Angle became available to us because of the issues that ultimately led to the... And it would have worked. It would have narratively worked because you then told a story of Karen Angle and Kurt Angle having their divorce, and it would have been perfect to say, well, he was available to us because he had a massive drug issue and didn't want to go to rehab. We didn't care. We just, and again, they're not going to do this for various reasons. We didn't really give a fuck that the guy was on death's door or horribly addicted to pills. So we just turned a blind eye to it. And hey, here's Kurt Angle on TNA, and it's really awesome and it's great. And there he is wrestling, and there he is being good. And there's, perk angle as we all. I mean, like whatever. We don't care because he was good on our show. And yeah, I see why they're going to tell that side of the story, but I think it would have, again, narratively worked a little bit better to say, well, Kurt was available because he wouldn't go to rehab, and that ultimately was a big reason why he and Karen had their divorce, and why ultimately he was able, divorced Karen, and then Karen was able to get into a relationship with Jeff. So it would have worked a little bit better to do that, but again, they didn't really want to do. They call it Dark Side of the Ring, but it's like we don't really want to talk about all the dark stuff anymore, because we have Jeff Jarrett and we have these people here, and we don't really want to tell the real story, the true dark story of what's going on with this person. So we're going to kind of do a redemption tour instead. So it's just, it's rough. It's really rough. And I don't know. I suppose I probably should watch the last 2 episodes, and maybe I will cover it here because I think maybe it's important to be that truth teller that has to do it. Because I had to do it for Death of WCW, and I had so many fucking notes. For those that you listen on Patreon, I talked about it. I had so many notes when those shows were done, and I was like, that's not true. That's not true. That's a lie. 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 Oh my God, that's a lie. That's not true. That's not wrong. It was just an endless, I was doing just thousands of words with every episode because I was like, I have to tell the truth here. And that's a big reason why I considered doing, I did the Mr. McMahon documentary, obviously, covered that, and was kind of tried to be a truth teller on that as well. I couldn't do the Hulk Hogan Netflix thing because I was like, there is not enough energy in my body to be a truth teller in a Hulk Hogan documentary. Like, I'm not doing that. There is no way anybody can try to filter through the amount of lies that Hulk Hogan is going to do on a documentary. So I just waved my hands on that one. But I suppose now that I've done this, I should probably keep it going and do the next 2 episodes. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do Flagship Plus episodes about that because I just think it's important to try to counteract, what these shows were, and it just sucks because these guys are very good at what they do. The Dark Side guys, and I think it's Jason Eisner, and I forget the other guy's name. They do good work, and they look good, and they sound good, and they're professional produced. They need more truth in them, and there's just, I'm now seeing that they might not do that. They might not do that. They're just going to tell whatever story they want to tell, and they're going to let the liars dictate the story. And that definitely feels, very, very disappointing that happened. But there you go. That is Dark Side of the Ring TNA. So cannot recommend it. I would not, clearly, if you listen to, believe it or not, I don't recommend that show at all, but I'll watch the last 2 episodes and review it for you guys. So, all right, let's move on. We'll do our final segment here. We're going to talk about Tiger Mask retiring. So Tiger Mask 4 has retired. We got the match that we wanted, and I really, really wanted to get Chris Charlton on this show to ask him, are you the reason we got Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask? I feel like it is. I feel like it probably is, but he's probably listening to this. Chris, wink twice. Blink, wink. Give me a thumbs up. Do whatever. A heart emoji. Whatever you want to do. Let me know if you were the one that pitched Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask and Tiger Mask's retirement match. So this was a very. I only watched the top 3 matches. I only watched the Tiger Mask retirement parts of the show. I did not watch everything else on the show, but you had 3 matches technically here. So you had first Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask. Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington versus Tiger Mask. Now, this was done in an exhibition. I didn't know they were going to do an exhibition. I thought they were just going to have a real wrestling match. They did an exhibition. And Tiger Mask 4, he can't really. I mean, it's rough. He's moving very, very slowly these days, and he did not exactly have his working boots on this night either. But this was okay. I was a little disappointed. I thought it'd be a little bit better. I wish it wasn't just the time limit draw, the 5-minute time limit draw. I understand why you want to do that with Tiger Mask. You don't want him going out there and wrestling, a 15-minute match or whatever. But I think they could have. They could have done a little bit more with this match. I think it could have been a real actual match. I think it could have been something a little bit more substantial. It was just they went in there, they wrestled a little bit. Billington was clearly holding a little bit back. You know, it didn't feel like he was giving his best effort, which is a little disappointing. And it felt like Tiger Mask didn't really have his best foot forward in this match either. They just kind of grappled for a little bit. They wrestled back and forth. Then they had a time limit draw at 5 minutes. And, that's cool because it plays into the history that these guys had. I think, you could have I think you just sent it off. I think you could have just sent off Tiger Mask defeating Dynamite Kid, right? Like, you could have just, it's fine. Because here's how the series went. The series was 19. Well, I'm not going to. Should I do the whole series? I'll do the whole series. Fine. April 23rd, 1981. Tiger Mask defeats Dynamite Kid. That's in Japan. Then you have January 1st, 1982 for the vacant WWF Junior Heavyweight title. Tiger Mask defeats Dynamite Kid to win the title. January 28th, 1982. Tiger Mask defeats Dynamite Kid. April 9th, 1982. Tiger Mask defeats Dynamite Kid. July 23rd, 1982. Dynamite Kid defeats Tiger Mask by DQ. So not a true win. August 5th, 1982. WWF Junior Heavyweight title. Tiger Mask defeats Dynamite Kid. August 30th, 1982. WWF on Madison Square Garden Network. Well, MSG Network in New York City. Tiger Mask defeats Dynamite Kid. And the final two matches they had, April 21st, 1983. For the WWF Junior Heavyweight title, the vacant, once again, vacant title. Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask, double count out. They restart the match, double count out. Would have been a good idea. I mean, he was leaving. Would have been a good idea to just have Dynamite beat him. It would have. It would have been. Why not? Why not close that book? Why not close that book? Do we really need a time limit draw? Does he need one last? Are we going to close the book if we never have another Tiger Mask and Tommy Billington never faces the new Tiger Mask? We're going to close the book on Dynamite Kid never defeating Tiger Mask. Is that good or is that bad? I don't know. I really I wrestled with that as I was watching the show. Is that the way to go? Would it have been a better idea to have Dynamite Kid finally beat him in that final match, finally beat Tiger Mask in that final match as we send off Tiger Mask? Now, for the record, this Tiger Mask is not in any of those. All those matches that I mentioned is not this Tiger Mask. That's Sayama. Is all those matches is Sayama, and all those Dynamite Kids are obviously not Tommy Billington, right? Not this little guy, not this dude. You know that, of course. It's the original Dynamite Kid. So I don't know. Maybe is it not a? Did they not continue the same trajectory? They did this match clearly because of these matches, though, right? Like, so they're in the rivalry. They're in the feud. They exist. So I don't know. I really wrestle with that. Is it cool that Dynamite Kid might never beat Tiger Mask? And his final opportunity to do it, it ended in a time limit draw. Is that cool? Or would it have been cooler to just have Dynamite Kid beat Tiger Mask once and for all and close the book on the Dynamite Kid Tiger Mask rivalry? I don't know. I think it's kind of cool that, even this new Dynamite Kid can't do it. But I would have, and that's where I would have liked to maybe see it be an actual match and it just be, and I get you maybe didn't want Tiger Mask to lose or to beat Dynamite Kid, or you don't want Dynamite Kid to lose to an old ass dude in like 11 minutes or whatever. So I guess the time limit draw worked out better. I don't know. I really don't know what I'm comfortable with. I don't know what I like better. I think in my heart of hearts, I bought into the idea that this Dynamite Kid would beat Tiger Mask and just kind of close the book on that. But there's something romantic. There's something romantic about no Dynamite Kid of any generation is ever going to be able to beat Tiger Mask. But yeah, either way, curious what you guys think. Let me know in the YouTube comments and if you're listening live, let me know in the YouTube chat here. Let me know. I'm curious what you think about this. Don't reach out to us on Twitter. Don't do that. Go on our Discord, voiceofwrestling.com/Discord. Join the Discord and talk there. But yeah, so that was the first part, Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask, and it was just okay. A little disappointing. Then next up was, he Tiger Mask, they hit a time limit draw. Dynamite Kid walks over. The referee's like, oh, no. And he's like, no, I'm just trying to shake the guy's hand. Like, just calm down. Like, the referee's like, whoa, no, get out of here. Like, don't beat him up. And poor Tommy Billington's like, I just want to shake the guy's hand. I just want to, say, hey, thank you for a job well done, a career well wrestled. I'm out of here. So Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask, they do a little handshake. And then Black Tiger slides into the ring and starts attacking Tiger Mask at the bell. And we have our second exhibition match. So yet another exhibition match, Black Tiger versus Tiger Mask. And this is obviously the Rocky Romero version of Black Tiger. And this is where Tiger Mask number 4 put a little bit of effort in. Now, he clearly thought more of Rocky than he did Tommy Billington. He clearly thought more of Black Tiger than he did Dynamite Kid. So this was as much of a throwback as you're going to get of this version of Tiger Mask. We had a suicide dive to the outside. He was running okay. He was trying. The effort level was certainly higher in this match than it was. Now, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great effort level. And let's face it. Let's face it. This Tiger Mask isn't that good. Sayama, really fucking great wrestler. Misawa, pretty good wrestler. Pretty good wrestler. Those guys. So it's a tough act to follow to be, Tiger Mask. But Koji Kanemoto, good worker. Koji Kanemoto, good wrestler. So it was tough shoes to fill here for Tiger Mask number 4. But he very firmly 4 out of 4 of the 4 Tiger Masks. He's not that good. He's fine. There are times where I really like Tiger Mask, but he's just okay. And he did as much of a throwback as he could here, but he's not that good of a wrestler, and he's on, in the final stages of his career. Here, quite literally the final stages of his career, the final couple minutes of his career. So he at least gave you a little bit here, but you could certainly tell that the better days for Tiger Mask were well behind him. So this was just, this is better, but we went to a time limit draw again. So Black Tiger, Rocky is like, no, fuck that. We're not going to a time limit draw. I'm ending your career. I want 5 more minutes. So Tiger Mask agrees. Let's do 5 more minutes. And 18 seconds later, Tiger Mask with the Tiger Suplex pins Black Tiger, gets the 1-2-3, and wins in his final match as a pro wrestler. So Black Tiger unmasks, gives him a big old hug. It's Rocky Romero. He leaves the ring, and we begin the ceremony at the end as all the wrestlers get in the ring and they all kind of cheer Tiger Mask. They give him a round of applause. They throw him up in the air. And then we had an incredible parade of random people to give Tiger Mask flowers and give him a bow and give him his accolades or whatever. We had 2 random Japanese idols. I don't know how these women know Tiger Mask at all. They're like very young, like of age. They were of age. They weren't like 11 years old. They were, probably in their 20s or whatever. But I don't know their connection. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat room, you guys can tell me who these idols were or what their connection was to Tiger Mask. I had no idea. Chris Charlton was on commentary, so he tried, and that's why I wanted to get him on the show to kind of talk about what was going on with this Tiger Mask retirement. But so yeah, the idols. I don't know the connection between Tiger Mask and these idols, but God bless him for having friends that are this young and this hot. So good for him. Then we had like an assortment of old baseball players and baseball managers from like the Tokyo Giants or something like that. It was very strange. It's like, oh, that's like this guy. He was the manager of the Yokohama Giants or whatever. It was very strange it's like this old baseball player and this old manager came out, and it was like, oh, all right, cool. Like, who are these guys? It's, of course, Tiger Mask number 4. This guy would like not a lot of wrestling friends, but he's got like baseball friends. You know what I mean? He's got guys that he used to go watch baseball games with. Of course, he would have those guys. It's kind of funny how that happened. But these random baseball dudes came out and showed some respect to them. Let me see if they have any of the. I'm trying to find the guys' names. I don't know who the baseball guys were. Let me see. Tiger Mask number 4 retirement baseball guys. Let's see. One final roar from New Japan's website. Does this list the guys? Let's see. Okay. Oh, maybe. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we got a couple of. No. Damn it! It just says. They were joined by, because obviously you had members of the New Japan roster, the babyface sides of the roster. It says they were joined by numerous special guests, including musicians. That was the idol. So Chris didn't know who they were either, I guess. Baseball players. K1 star Takeru. I don't know enough about K1 to let you know, but some K1 guys showed up. That was cool. But let's get to the actual wrestlers that showed up. The wrestling legend that showed up. So obviously Prez Tanahashi was going to be there. He's the president. Of course, he was going to be there. Jushin Thunder Liger. We got to hear the song again. Came up from the commentary booth. Looking slim and looking trim. Jushin Thunder Liger looking good, man. He has leaned out, looking very healthy. A lot of people reached out on Twitter, and I don't know if it was like a poor translate of the Twitter translate, but somebody said, like, Liger, you look very skinny. And he essentially said, and again, I don't know if this is like a poor translation, but seemed to have it pretty good. Essentially said, yeah, I'm done wrestling, so of course I would get thinner. The only person that stops wrestling and gets bigger is Hiroshi Tanahashi. And it's like, whoa, that's the boss man right there. That's the president. He's not wrong. I mean, Tanahashi is blown up very big. He clearly is enjoying retirement. But hey, good for Jushin Thunder Liger to get a little thinner in his retirement. So he came out. Tatsumi Fujinami came out. That was really cool to see Tatsumi Fujinami out there. He was not moving well at all. A lot of these guys were not moving very well at all, but Fujinami in particular was not moving very well, and he still wrestles from time to time. So yeah, I don't know what they have to do to get him ready to get in there. But yeah, someone in the chat says, according to Filthy Tom Lawler, Tiger Mask is an asshole. Yeah, I buy that. That's probably why not that many people showed up for his retirement ceremony. I could definitely buy that he's a total fucking prick. But Fujinami showed up. Jushin Thunder Liger was there. The Great Sasuke showed up. Also not moving very well. Probably from all the fucking massive bumps he always takes in those goddamn, the Michinoku Pro, the final, what do they call the Great Space War? The Great Space War. He takes these fucking horrific bumps all the time at the end of these Great Space Wars. And it's like, dude, you don't have to do that. But he decides to, and I appreciate that. But the Great Sasuke came out and said hi to Tiger Mask, bowed to him, gave him some flowers, gave him a big hug. Then Jinsei Shinsaki came out, the former Hakushi. You might know him as Hakushi. He came out, and I'm still laughing about this. So, anybody who watched this knows why I'm laughing. In the pantheon of great New Japan World dubbed theme music, this was maybe an all-timer. The best is Dragon Lee. The best ever is Dragon Lee. Let me see if I can find the Dragon Lee. I want to play it for you guys. Dragon Lee New Japan theme. Because I think there's a generation of you guys that never heard it. So we're going to play it because I want to try to get, because should I punch up New Japan World? They're very litigious. I don't know if I should do that. I'm going to describe it for you. I'm going to play Dragon Lee's dub theme because that's just on YouTube. I'm going to describe what they did for Shinzaki. I'm going to see if they have Mysticos as well, because that is another one that I think is in the upper echelon. So, okay, I'm going to get this Dragon Lee one ready to go. Let's see. Okay, it is the one that I wanted. Okay, here you go. So I present to you Dragon Lee's New Japan World dubbed theme music. Former I said former wrestler Dragon Lee. He's still wrestling. He is retired, though. He is in World Wrestling Entertainment. But no, he is not a former wrestler. He still wrestles to this day. But here's Dragon Lee's New Japan dubbed theme music, which is the all-time greatest in my mind. But here you go.
If you want it, baby girl, if you want what I got, you know how I keep it high. That's how I get when you make me drop. Make it pop now. Let's make it pop. If you want it, baby girl, if you want what I got, you know how I keep it high. That's how I get when you make me drop. Make it pop now. Let's make it pop. The jeans be sagging, but the hat can't fit it. The looks is cool, but the game came with it. So what it do, ma? It's me and you, ma. Ain't trying to get too deep. Now this ain't scuba, but you might need a wetsuit to get your suit wet. Rick James the main, come see how we do it. I run the town, pick you up round one.
All right. So that was this. It's a great song. I don't know why who picked that for Dragon Lee or why, but it's a great. It's like a very 2002, like fucking chingy, that level of music, that like rap, R&B rap, those kind of chingy. Trying to think of other guys in that generation that were kind of that way, but it's quite the theme for Dragon Lee. It didn't quite fit him at all and was very strange, but God bless New Japan World for their dubbed theme music for Dragon Lee. Now I want to see if I don't think Mysticos is available. Now that's the one that I always say sounds like. Okay, one second. One second. Maybe I got this. One sec. All right, it's loading. Let's see if we got this. Okay, I think. All right, so this is a clip from New Japan World, but we're gonna play it anyway. Chris, don't. It's okay. Just let us do it. All right, so here's what they play for Mystico, his dubbed theme music. And yes, it is that soft, if you're wondering.
Wrestling fans, I hope you're enjoying your Mystico intermission here tonight. As Mystico says goodbye to the talent that he will see in 24 hours' time. The IWGP Junior Tag Team Championship will be on the line. Mystico.
So I always liken I always say it's like a Blues Travelers, like a Hootie and the Blowfish B-side. Like, what a random, like, for Mystico, you picked that for Mystico. It makes no sense, but I love it. Should I should, okay, you know what, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna play, because, okay, so Jinsei Shinsaki comes out now. For people that don't know about the history of his theme music in various companies, he has some of the best music of anybody ever. Like, if you know, his WWF theme is fucking incredible. Like, so here's the Hakushi song, which is one of the best ever WWF theme songs. I adore this theme song. So here you go. This is the Hakushi WWF theme song. Okay, so that rocks, right? That's great. All Japan, he has a song called Sky, Wind, Fire, Earth, Water. And here's what that one sounds like. So there you go. It's, again, you have a definitely a business picks up. Things are a little weird when he's there, right? Like, so whoever picked this dub theme music for New Japan World, and I am actually going to be a coward. I'm not going to play it. I'm going to make you guys go watch it if you want. I don't want to get in trouble. They're very litigious. I don't want to cause any issues with our friends at New Japan and whatever. So New Japan World, I'm not going to get involved in it. So whatever. You're just going to have to go listen to it for yourself. What happened is clearly whoever picked the dub theme music for this knew that we had to pick something that was kind of mysterious and ominous and weird and foreboding. So they did. They picked something that was ominous and weird and foreboding for the first 40 seconds of the song. But it took my man's old and very broken down. It took him a lot longer to get to the ring. So it's a similar song to that. It's kind of like, it's like very mysterious and weird. And then after 40 seconds, it just starts playing animal noises. It's like, it's like, what happened to this theme song? And then it just goes, and then there's like flutes, and then there's chimes, and then it just goes in a completely different direction than you would ever expect. It is like, clearly, like, whatever the pick was just like generic Japanese sounds. You know, give me every Japanese sound you possibly can, every animal, and smash it all together in this theme song. So I'm guessing whoever picked this, the first 40 seconds, they're like, perfect. That is exactly the Earth, Wind, Fire, Kushi and Jinsei Shisaki. That's going to be the perfect theme for him. And it was for 40 seconds. And then it got real fucking weird. And then this thing kept playing, and you're like, what is this song? What is happening? Jinsei Shishaki's in this ring here, bowing to Tiger Mask, and it's like, you got all these like flutes. It's like, what the fuck? There's 1,000 noises going on. It's so weird. It makes no sense at all. So I definitely highly recommend you go check it out to listen to the dub theme, because it is an all-timer there. It is not as good as Dragon Lee's song. No, Dragon Lee's song remains the top. That is still my favorite. But the Shinzaki one is very close. And Mystico's, as Jordan Smith in the chat room says, Mystico with the 90s ABC sitcom canceled due to poor viewership after 3 episodes intro music. And that is exactly what it is. Also says, Jordan, were you talking about the Dragon Lee one or the Mystical one? The music that you'd hear in a direct-to-Tubi movie. I don't know if that's Dragon Lee's song or Mystico's dubbed theme song, but either one definitely works. But that was Tiger Mask retirement tour. So it was not the best ceremony ever. It was emotional-ish, but definitely didn't feel like it had the gravity of Liger. 1 trillion of the gravity of the Hiroshi Tanahashi send-off, obviously. I mean, that was just an all-timer, just an unbelievable moment. Dragon Lee had 2 music. Yeah, it's like the Dragon Lee song sounds like a direct-to-Tubi movie about, like, kids going to high school, and it's like showing the kids, hanging out in high school, and it's like, what it do, ma? What it you, ma? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's like, but it's one of those movies where you watch it and all the high schoolers look like they're 32 years old. You're like, none of these people are in high school. Like, what the fuck is all, like, it's a very weird movie. All these people are very old, and it's very outdated. And is this even how high schoolers act anymore? But the movie's written by 45-year-olds and acted by 31-year-olds, all pretending they're all in high school. So it doesn't quite work. But it plays, that Dragon Leap song plays as the as the montage of the movie begins, as we look upon Southwest High as the kids are, the bell rings and kids are emerging, going to class, as that Dragon Leap song is playing in the background. Yeah, so, no, again, the Tiger Mask thing just did not have anywhere near the emotion of Jushin Thunder Liger. That was one that brought me to tears. I don't even know why. Like, his family got in the ring. It's always the families that get me. When the Lucha guys unmask, it's when those families come in there and they hug their daughters and they hug their sons and they hug their wives. That's what always gets me. The wrestlers crying, I'm like, I don't really, 2 wrestlers crying, it's just like, that doesn't get me. But when the family comes in and that breakdown, when you no longer see the wrestler as the wrestler and you see them as the human being, that is where because that it's always in those eyes. You see, you're like, oh my God, that's the real human being behind them. That's the real human being there, because now they're hugging their family. They're seeing their children. That stuff always gets me. Always gets me on the big lucha matches and the Japanese retirements as well. The big thing here on this night, though, and I don't want to gloss over it, but the big surprise here was Sayama showed up. Satoru Sayama showed up. Now he is, let me get how old he was, God, because he looked rough. I think he's not as old as you might think, but he's not young. 68 years old. So he, of course, was the original Tiger Mask. Now he wasn't Tiger Mask for a long time, but he is the most memorable Tiger Mask ever. I mean, Misawa wasn't a Tiger Mask for a long time either, and everybody knows him as Misawa instead. And Sayama is interesting because I think a lot of people still think of him as Tiger Mask, even though he was Tiger Mask from 81 to, I don't know, 84, right? And then he was the Tiger and Super Tiger, which were tigers, but it wasn't exactly, I think by 84, 85, he's kind of done being Tiger Mask as we know it. And he's kind of done even being the Tiger. I don't know. Yeah, it's A couple years. Let's go 5. Let's be conservative and say 5 years. So the guy spent 5 years as Tiger Mask. Now, Tiger Mask 4, the one that just retired, spent 20 years or so? How long was he? Let me find the first official Tiger Mask match. All right, let's see here. Tiger Mask. First ever Tiger Mask match for him was, fittingly enough, against Satoru Sayama. May 20th, 1995 was his very first time as Tiger Mask. So he begins in earnest in July of 1995 as Tiger Mask. It is 2026, 1995, 3 decades as Tiger Mask. And yet, when this Tiger Mask came out, when Satoru Sayama came out here, this crowd went, oh, it's like, that's Tiger Mask. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the guy right there. The fact that he still has that he still has that aura and that energy. Because, man, when he arrived, it was like, whoa, that's the guy. That's Sayama. And it's also that he's in a New Japan ring as well. Now, obviously, if you know the history of Sayama and how all that went down, I'm not going to do that on this show. But, him showing back up in a New Japan ring is pretty fucking cool. His last couple times, he showed up a couple times in 2009 and 2008. I'm looking here. 2008 he appeared. 2009 he appeared at the Red Shoes Uno 20th anniversary show. On the Masahiro Chono 25th show, he showed up. But other than that, very rarely did you get Satoru Sayama in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So for him to show up again felt very, this crowd really gave whoa, wow, it's him. And then he got in the ring there with Tiger Mask, and they hugged, and Tiger Mask 4, this is when he really broke down. This is when you saw really the first emotion from him. There was a little bit here and there as he's bowing, a little bit of tears, but this is he broke down in full tears and gave a big hug to Sayama. Sayama gave a big hug to him. And then they kind of looked at each other and they kind of separated. And then they said something to the referee, and the referee's like, all right, fine. And they rang the bell. And then we got a lockup. They locked up. Sayama's not going to go out there and work. They locked up. And then the referee said, okay, that's enough. And then they stopped locking up. So that's all you got out of that. But it was fun. And that was the first time I got a little emotional because, like I said, I don't usually get emotional with the wrestlers, but Sayama showing up and being very, very old and looking very, like he, again, did not look very good. And it being a huge surprise, seemingly to Tiger Mask 4, that Sayama showed up, and this crowd going, whoa, my God, it's him. Like, that got me, because it was like, there is an all-time legend there coming in the ring. And it just also, it signified as well that despite 30 years as Tiger Mask is still not, Tiger Mask number 4 is still not Tiger Mask. Tiger Mask is Satoru Sayama. That's the one that faced Dynamite Kid all those times. That's the guy who really made that gimmick. He was the first one, and he made that gimmick what it was and what it would be forever. And that's why, Misawa had it for a little bit, and that's why it was seen as a All Japan Pro Wrestling wanted to buy it from him and bought it from New Japan Pro Wrestling and bought it from this guy to give it to Misawa, because it was like, oh, that'll be big because that guy made that gimmick such a big deal. And then obviously Misawa was Misawa, and they're like, okay, we can actually unmask this guy and just like push him to the fucking moon as himself, and it's fine. And then Koji Kanemoto got it for a little bit, and that didn't go very well for him, and he didn't like it, and he hated it, and he lost the mask versus mask match. And was that Battlefield 94 against him and Liger? That's a great match. Really, really fun match. And Koji Kanemoto loses the match and throws his mask at Jushin Thunder Liger. It's like, you can fucking take it. I don't want it anyway. And then that led to, the next year, Tiger Mask number 4, donning the Tiger Mask. And now we wait and see. Now we wait and see if there is going to be another Tiger Mask. I was waiting to see if maybe on this night they were going to say, okay, here's the new Tiger Mask. At the end of this, Tiger Mask 4 was going to hand the mask, off to the next generation of Tiger Mask. But so far, it looks like we might not have a Tiger Mask in wrestling. Probably the first time since 1981 that we don't have an earnest Tiger Mask out there, right? Like, I'm sure there was some periods where there was downtime between Tiger Mask, but I know a lot of people think that Dragon Dia might be earmarked for that. That would be a good role for him, I think. We'll see. We'll see if anybody dons the Tiger Mask or if they finally call it a day here. But it was okay. Like, I had higher hopes for the Billington match, and it wasn't very good. The Black Tiger match was okay. The stuff with Sayama was emotional and good. the rest of the retirement thing, there wasn't a whole lot of guys that really stood out as like, oh my God, that guy's here and that guy's here. Wow, he's here, and like, oh, that was really emotional. Just someone in the chat put it perfectly. Heavenly Halberd, you put it perfectly. A mediocre retirement for a mediocre Tiger Mask. That fits. I think that fits pretty well. But that's all I have, guys. So again, I would have really liked. There was another guest that I was hoping to get in. Try to make that work. It didn't happen. Try to get Chris Charlton in here, even though I knew he was traveling. So that I felt like was going to be a risk. And I gave Chris. I was like, if you don't feel good, don't come. It's okay. No one's going to care. Like, obviously, the G1 is way more important than this stupid podcast where I talk to you about Tiger Mask's retirement match. Like, you don't have to come on here and do it. And obviously, no ill will. I do want to do a show with Chris at some point, so hopefully we will be able to do that. But unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot else to talk about. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I do. 1 sec. SWAT. The SWAT remains in TNA. Daria Ray. Let me get the official. I can't believe this is a thing. Let me get it. Okay. It's a headline that says top TNA personality resigns with company. Fightful Select confirms that. Oh, it is a free post. Okay, good. It's a free post. Fightful Select. So we're going to read exactly from them. It appears to be a press release, but we're just going to read it anyway. Daria Ray, formerly known as Sonya Deville, has re-signed with TNA. Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful Select have confirmed. From TNA directly. Quote, TNA Director of Operations Daria Ray has re-signed with the company. It was confirmed today as first reported by Fightful. The charismatic authority figure, Daria, is a key part of TNA Thursday Night Impact every week on AMC and AMC Plus, Sportsnet 360, and TNA Plus. Since making a surprise debut on the premiere episode of TNA Thursday Night Impact on AMC, Daria has shaken things up in TNA, going head-to-head with TNA's Director of Authority, Santino Marella. Speaking about why she loves being with TNA in an interview earlier this year with the Sportster, Daria said, quote, there is more passion, heart, soul, and pure talent in this company than I think arguably anywhere else in sports entertainment today. Are you fucking out of your mind? TNA Wrestling presents Lockdown on Sunday, August 23rd from the Credit One Union Arena in downtown Chicago, with every match contested inside a steel cage. There are two major events also coming up at the Lycurgus Center at Temple University in Philadelphia on July 30th and 31st. Should I go to TNA Lockdown August 23rd? I'm trying to think. It feels like that date. I feel like I'm doing something on that day. But if I'm not doing anything, I guess I'll try to go to Lockdown. But look, you're letting people go left and right because clearly the AMC money isn't very good, if that money exists at all. A lot of people were on 6-month contracts that were let go. And you're spending money on Director of Operations Daria Ray, and you're bringing in formerly known as Sonya Deville. You're bringing her back. And she's probably being paid pretty handsomely, right? Daria Ray's not showing up at a bottom barrel rate. No, you're paying her a lot of money to argue with Santino Marella in backstage segments in a authority figure feud. Like, what do you do? Guys, come on. I have everybody to say, oh, good. Her contract's due. Thank God. All right, great. Just wipe our hands of that and move on. It's Daria Ray. No one's watching the show for Daria Ray. No one's buying a ticket to Lockdown Sunday, August 23rd from the Credit Union One Arena in downtown Chicago because of fucking formerly known as Sonya Deville. No one's tuning into AMC. No one's buying a ticket. No one's buying pay-per-views because of Daria Ray and her arguments with Santino Marella. I mean, of all the people to re-sign, if this truly is a re-signing and truly her contract was due and they said, whoa, Daria, don't leave this room until you let us give you the best possible offer. Here you go. Like, if that's truly what happened and this isn't just some PR bullshit and she was already signed and we try to just, stoke the flames of the news cycle or whatever, if this is an earnest, like, we have to make sure we attempt to re-sign Daria Ray, I mean, that is Dude, I don't know, man. That's like easiest one to get rid of. Easiest person to get rid of would have been Daria Ray, but whatever. TNA. Another person brought this up, and yeah, let's do this. Let's talk about this. I don't know if I'm going to get to 3 hours, but a couple other things I had in my notes here, and I was like, I was going to sign off, but I'm having a little bit of fun. Let's keep going here. So, so lockdown. Some people want to know about lockdown tickets. Okay, we're going to do a choose what you want Rich to talk about for the last hour of the show. Not a Q&A. Just shout things in the chat room, and if I find it interesting, I will look it up. Let's see if lockdown is on WrestleTix. All right, 8 hours ago. Well, wait, hold on. No, not good. Okay, never mind. I forgot what building they were running. This is not good. TNA Wrestling presents Lockdown from the Credit Union 1 Arena at the University of Illinois Chicago in downtown Chicago. All right, Sunday, August 23rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. TNA presents Lockdown. Available tickets, only 472 tickets available. They set this thing up for 2,131. Tickets distributed, 1,659 tickets sold. Now, you might say, well, hey, they only have 400 tickets left to go. That's not too bad, Rich, right? Come on. What's the deal here? Well, as I feverishly try to search here, you can put a couple more people in that building. Couple more people can go in that building. Let's see here. Let's see if we got attendance numbers. For WCW used to run the UIC Pavilion all the time. That's what the Credit Union 1 Arena is the former UIC Pavilion. Okay, so Starrcade 1987 was at the UIC Pavilion, right? A show that they should have never moved Starrcade to Chicago ever. Why was Starrcade in frickin' Chicago? No idea why it was, but it was at the USC Pavilion. 8,000 people in the building. Capacity, 8,000 people in the building. AWA Super Clash 3, a disastrous show. A show considered a massive, gigantic business commercial flop. AWA Super Clash, a fucking disaster. One of the last breaths of air out of the AWA. 1,672, almost exactly what TNA has right now for AWA Super Clash in 1988. They would go back there, WCW would, for Chi-Town Rumble in 1989. They would put another 8,000 in the building for that. That is Steamboat and Flair in your main event, one of the all-time great, fucking phenomenal match. 8,000 people in the building for Chi-Town Rumble in February of 1989. Then Halloween Havoc 1990. Terror Rules the Ring. October 27th, 1990. 8,000 people in the building for that show as well. That was a horrible, like, Sting beat Sid Vicious in the main event, but it was like a fake Sting or whatever. That was a disaster. Bad show. Bad show. So those are the major pay-per-views there. So the building can fit a lot of people. As WrestleTix puts on here, total seats on the map are 8,104. So you could put a lot more people in this building. They are clearly I think they're only doing one. It looks like they're only selling one side and right around the ring, and they're not selling the upper decks. They're not selling the other side of the ring. They're keeping it very simple to one side of the building and just the ringside area. So, yeah, it's not a very good number. 1,659, not a very good number at all. Some people want to know about SummerSlam. React to these SummerSlam numbers. So, okay, let's do it. We're on WrestleTix right now. Let's talk about SummerSlam. Let's see. The latest on SummerSlam is... Did they not have anything on SummerSlam here? Let's see. The latest I can... let's see. Let me double check. I'm not seeing much. No, they got to have it on WrestleTix, right? There's got to be a SummerSlam update. Let's see if we can do some searching here to figure out what happened. Okay, all right. We got it 3 hours ago. 3 hours ago. Okay, we're doing this update right now. All right, great. 3 hours ago, SummerSlam Saturday. SummerSlam Saturday. Whoa, not good. Wow. You guys weren't kidding. Holy shit. Why is this not a story? Holy shit. SummerSlam Saturday, which is August 1st. We're less than 30 days out from SummerSlam Saturday, US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. Tickets distributed is 22,069. You're in a football stadium. What? Looks like since the last update 3 days ago, they lost 2,000 tickets. The number of seats returned to the map. So, holy shit, regardless of whatever. 22,069 for Saturday? They set this building up for 29,535. It's a football stadium. It seats like 70,000 people. What are you doing? Last year in MetLife, night one of SummerSlam, 50,493. This year, 22,069. Holy crap. What? What? Why is this not the biggest story in wrestling? Why did thank you for people pointing this out. What? I hadn't been paying attention. I just kind of assumed that they were like, 35, 40,000. They'll get there, whatever, whatever. I didn't even look at it. 22,000 for Saturday? Holy crap. Sunday. Not much better, folks. 2 hours ago. Current setup, 29,535. Why are you running you're running a giant football stadium to put 29,000 people in it? Well, don't have to worry. They only have 21,000 out for that one. 21,000. 21,731. Now then, again, that's a good number. 21,000 people going to a wrestling show. That's a lot of people, but you're in a freaking football stadium. Last year, night 2 of SummerSlam, MetLife Stadium, 58,186. They're down year over year. Yeah, it's not the same building. It's the same date, though. It's August 2nd. It's the same show. SummerSlam Sunday versus SummerSlam Sunday. They are down last year, 58,186. This year, 21,731. Wow. Wow. Holy shit. I did not realize. Hey, if I'm Minnesota, if I'm Minneapolis, I'm like, hey, can we pay you guys less? Because you're not putting people in the fucking building. Holy crap. Let's check in with Wembley. Holy shit, Wembley's got to be looking great by comparison. 28,000 in Wembley. Now you're feeling good about Wembley. All right? They did a 50% off sale, and they sold about 1,200 tickets in 3 days. So that worked out very well. 50% off. A little buy one, get one free action. That'll work for sure. So they're up 1,200 since 3 days ago. 28,107 distributed for a setup of 37,182 for All in London. So yeah, wow. You might be disappointed by those numbers, but go look at SummerSlam and you'll feel very, very good about the numbers. Wow. That is a massive story that is not being talked about by anybody. At all. I did not realize they were that low. Wow. Thank you, listener, for making me aware of that. Wow. I'm going to focus on it now. I'm right about it. I'm going to do everything. That is crazy, that year-to-year drop. Crazy. Year-to-year drop. And I'm sure, again, Minneapolis, I'm sure, is paying through the nose to have these guys come in to put 22,000 in a football stadium. Like, that is... And the gate's probably massive. The gates will be fucking insane gate. They're probably charging $1,000 for the tickets or whatever, but it's going to be embarrassing. I want to see them work around that. That is, we are back to where was the was it one of the Money in the Banks that they were going to do in the Vegas football stadium, and then it didn't sell enough, so they decided to move it to the intimate confines of the MGM Grand Garden Arena or whatever. I think like Michael Cole literally said, "Oh yeah, like it's more intimate. It'll be better experience for the fans to be at the MGM." It's like, well, you just didn't sell 40,000 tickets. That's why you're moving to the intimate confines of the MGM Grand Garden Arena. But wow, 21,000 for that Sunday show, and we're a month out, less than a month out. Whew. That's a huge story. That is not getting talked about, but yeah, makes Wembley look a lot better by comparison. All right, last thing that someone wanted me to talk about, and then I'm going to get out of here because now I'm just wasting your time and rambling. But hopefully you guys are having fun, and we'll be back full power for next week's flagship. And again, I apologize that this kind of fell through, but we went for a big swing, and it didn't quite work on the guests, but that's okay. We'll be back next week, and next time Joe's gone, I'll lock in some more familiar guests, and maybe I can get Chris while he's not traveling across the world on the date. But someone let me know. Let me see if that is. I think that is the date. So okay, we are July 9th, 2001. Does that mean anything to you if you're listening to this? July 9th, 2001. So that date was the Raw during the invasion from Atlanta, Georgia. One of the great Raw episodes of all time for the first half, and then one of the worst Raws ever in the second half, because this was, I believe, the Raw where, let me make sure this is the one. Yeah, it is. It's fucking terrible. So this is the one where 25 years ago today, this is the Raw where the invasion died. That you get this incredible moment where the ECW crew comes together. All these guys realize we're fighting for WWF and we're fighting for WCW. Why the fuck are we fighting for these companies when we should be fighting for ECW? And now you have WWF versus WCW versus ECW. Vince McMahon owns all of them, and you can have all three of the major wrestling promotions in America over the last several years battling it out, going head to head, fighting for pride, fighting for glory, doing all that sort of stuff. And then we ruined it in like literally the same episode. So you had the ECW crew come together. It'd be this great moment. And if I remember correctly, this is that episode where these guys are all in the ring, and little by little, they all realize, wait, we're all ECW guys. We should all fight for ECW. Fuck WWF. Fuck WCW. We're ECW for life. And they all come together and they form this ECW collective against WWF and WCW. But instead, at the end of this episode of Raw, this is where they announce that the ECW guys and the WCW guys have come together and they beat up the WWF guys. And Shane says, I have merged ECW and WCW, and this new merger of these two companies are going to kick your ass. And there's a brand new owner of ECW, and it's Stephanie McMahon. And it was just like, over. We're done. This invasion is fucking dead. Because you got Stephanie McMahon in her Kangol hat coming out to be the leader of ECW. Shane McMahon runs WCW. Stephanie runs ECW. Vince runs WWF. It's just a fucking McMahon war again, which we just got done doing for a year. The WrestleMania prior was a McMahon in every corner. WrestleMania was Shane versus Vince with Stephanie in Vince's corner and Trish Stratus turning on Stephanie. We just got done doing it, and we did it again. And Stephanie and that fucking ECW Kangol hat ruined the invasion, ruined it dead. I remember this being an like, oh my God, a great Raw that by the end of it, and my cynicism, maybe it began on this night. I think it had already started to bubble up a little bit, but I remember when this was done, I was looking at the TV being like, fuck you, fuck this company, fuck that. I went to my message boards, I don't know what, IGN message boards, or whatever the hell I was posting at that time, and was like, this is bullshit. This is because I loved ECW. And when ECW came together, I was like, now that's cool. WCW versus WWF versus ECW. WWF and WCW deciding maybe they should work together a little bit at times, but you knew that wasn't going to work. Everybody saw it, and everybody saw this is going to be a lot of fun. And then Stephanie comes out in that fucking Kangol hat, and she's the owner of ECW, and everybody collectively was like, well, that's it. Anything that was going to be fun or unique or interesting or you know, any of those it's all gone. Throw it all out of the fucking window. It's just a conduit to a McMahon feud. and the Alliance. We're not even going to call them WCW and ECW anymore. We're going to call it the Alliance. WCW is dead because we decided to put fucking Buff Bagwell and Booker T in front of a bored crowd in Tacoma, and they shit the bed. So we just decided WCW was done. ECW, they're just an outlaw, promotion. They don't really matter. So we're going to get rid of them, and we're just going to call it the Alliance. So then we have the Alliance versus WWF, and it's over. It's over from there. And it's one of the all-time just no invasion. Very few invasions have actually been booked well, but they couldn't have possibly booked the 2001 invasion any worse. And what's weird too is the first invasion pay-per-view before this sold a shit ton of pay-per-view buys. People wanted to see WWF versus WCW. You could have just given it to them. And sure, you didn't want to pay the WCW Time Warner guys you don't want to buy out of their contracts and pay them a bunch of money to bring them in. And Jim Ross will go on those documentaries and be like, well, you don't want to upset the pay scale and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you don't want to do anything, guys. Don't fucking you have WCW, you buy WCW for pennies on the fucking dollar. You don't want to upset anybody by bringing in guys that can make everybody more money. You wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to possibly sign someone to a deal that might make one of your wrestlers upset that, I don't know, Goldberg is in here and we're doing big giant matches with Goldberg main event. We don't want to do any of that stuff because we don't want to upset the pay. We don't want to make Undertaker upset because Goldberg's going to make more than the Undertaker. No way, that's never going to happen. Not on our watch. So it's like, you idiots. Okay, fine. Then have Chuck Palumbo and fucking Rhino and these guys be the head of the Alliance instead. Okay, that's going to work better. Or better yet, just make Steve Austin the head of the Alliance. Great. We'll just have one of our own guys. We'll have Steve Austin, a guy who was passionately anti-WCW for years. Let's have him run the Alliance. Sure, whatever. Okay, fine. Great. It's just stupid. I just get mad about the Alliance all over again. But 25 years ago tonight was I think I recorded this Raw too, because I remember thinking at this time, dude, every Raw before this happened, every Raw during the invasion was like, can't miss TV. Now, they weren't doing well with this invasion, but it was still like you didn't know what was going to happen. You know who was going to arrive. You were still on pins and needles about all of this. Like, I was taking drum lessons at this time, and I remember quitting and telling my mom, I can't take drum lessons anymore. I have to be home and watch Raw. I'll take them again later, but I have to watch Raw for now. And I'm pretty sure I signed right back. I was like, hey, if you have a spot available, I'd like to come right back if possible. Because this just blew it all. But I remember I used to tape every one of these episodes of Raw because you never knew what was going to happen. And then Stephanie McMahon and that fucking Kangol hat came out, and we all knew it was fucking over forever, and it was never going to get back on track, and it never did. So we celebrate that today as well. 25 years ago today, the Alliance was formed, and the invasion as we knew it was it already dead on arrival? Pretty much, but this is when we all knew, oh, this is not going to go well. This is going to be a fucking mess, and this is not going to work at all. And it didn't work. And the final match, I've always ranted about that final match. What was it, at Survivor Series or whatever? The final match to determine the life of WCW and the Alliance was. Let's see here. I love this Team Alliance. Okay. The winner take all. After this match, the Alliance is gone. It's over. The history of WCW and ECW was represented by Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and Shane McMahon. How did you fuck this up so much? But they all began fucking it up 25 years ago today. So anyway, Shiny Wizard said Rich could have been the next drummer in Metallica if not for the invasion. Could have been. Who knows? I wasn't very good, so probably not. And that's why I don't drum anymore, and I stopped drumming. It's very loud. It was too loud. I don't want to be... Drums are too loud. Very loud. I just didn't. As I was doing it, I'm like, do I really want to do this? This is kind of. I mean, I got good for a little while there. I enjoyed it for a little bit, but ultimately, I decided to throw in the towel on my drumming career and move on. So I played. What did I play? I played I played "Still Waiting" by Sum 41 as my sign off, my recital sign off, and said that's good. I've reached the pinnacle. I've played Sum 41, "Still Waiting" on the drums. What more can I do? in this game, and I hung up the sticks, never to drum ever again. So now I just drum in the car. Yeah, as I'm listening to songs, drum on the steering wheel, but that's about it. I don't have the just with my fingers. I'm not one of those guys that has that. I'm not one of those weirdos that brings, no. Just all right, that's it for this flagship, folks. So again, we'll be back in full power next week. I hope you guys still enjoyed this. I'm sorry it didn't quite work out exactly how we wanted it, but I had fun regardless, and I hope you guys did as well. A lot of other content, though, available at flagshippatreon.com. I did a Flagship Plus with Alan Forel this weekend. We talked about Osaka Pro, Kyushu Pro, and Sheamus's departure from WWE. Then I did the Thursday Dynamite review, talking about a very, very good Dynamite, a great Dynamite. Really did enjoy it. So that is, I talked, there were some things I didn't like about the show. There were some segments I didn't like about the show, but all in all, a very, very good show. So hopefully you guys dug that, but that was the Thursday Dynamite review. I did a written article as well as an audio accompaniment talking about how old all of the WWE champions are, because CM Punk won the title on Monday on Raw. I didn't really feel like talking about that on this show. I don't really care, to be honest. It's just kind of a nothing happening match and a moment that I'm never going to really give a shit about ever again, and whatever. But I wrote about it extensively, and then I did an audio show reading what I wrote, and then also adding a little bit more about how I feel so many wrestling bookers across the world are just so scared to push young wrestlers and push young guys, and how it's just an old man's game. Like, it's just so many old wrestlers, and particularly that WWE title, I broke down how the most recent you're not going to believe. If you haven't read that article at flagshippatreon.com on the $10 tier, you're not going to believe the most recent guy that was under the age of 30 that won that title. You're not going to believe it. You're going to maybe I'll give you a thought experiment. If you just listen to this show and you're not a flagshippatreon.com subscriber, before you go and look it up, try to think in your head, who is the last person in their 20s to win the undisputed WWE title, the top title in that company, not the world heavyweight title, the undisputed, the main title in that company. Who was the last guy in their 20s to win it? The answer may surprise you. So anyway, folks, that is it for me. Joe Lanz will be back next week. We'll be a full-powered flagship next week. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show this week, and we'll talk to you again next time. Take care. Bye.
My name is Tyler Fornes, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy AEW podcast here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We take a broad scope approach to the world of All Elite Wrestling and the entire universe of Tony Khan. We talk about the big matches, the big stars, the promos, the storylines. And we also look at it from a big picture perspective. How are things going to change over the course of the next 10 years with AEW still in the picture? How are companies like WWE going to adapt and adjust to AEW? Are they going to be a similar way like they did with WCW in the late 1990s? Will there be a counterpunch? We talk about all of that and more on The Good, the Bad, and the Hungy every week on the Voice of Wrestling Network.